We open on a scene of pure carnage, with bodies strewn across a blood-drenched floor. Amidst the wreckage, the only survivor collapses to his knees, his voice cracking as he asks why they'd do this when they were so close to achieving glory. The camera pushes in on the executive director's face, twisted in a raw, desperate scream. Stunned by this ultimate betrayal, he's suddenly yanked up by the collar by one of the men, who smirks and asks, "You really want to know why?" Kim Young-jin, identified as test subject 81, shoots him a death glare and questions if he's truly that clueless about what's unfolding. But the director just explodes, roaring at him to shut his mouth, because he wasn't the one being addressed. His gaze then locks onto another man, calling him out by name, Baek Woo-hyun. And that's our introduction to Baek. This man was the project's living Superman, and the director begins to grovel, calling him the single greatest masterpiece they had ever engineered. He dangles the promise of anything Baek could ever want, but Baek's reply is ice cold. He doesn't need a thing. Seeing that his words are useless, the director's desperation boils over into pure fury, and he calls Baek an absolute fool. Then comes the threat, warning him that the corporate alliance shows zero mercy to those who betray them. The warning escalates, promising that it won't just be him, but his entire family who will be utterly destroyed. But before that sentence can even be finished, a blur of motion flashes past, and the director is silenced for good. The shot cuts to Young-jin, pulling a dagger from his own stomach. Grievously injured, Young-jin is enraged at the sight of the dead director, complaining that he still had things to ask him. Just then, a system window materializes, announcing that the special mission has been officially completed. A look of profound relief washes over Baek as he realizes he's finally breaking free from this hellscape, his finger hovering over the exit button. A dark voice suddenly whispers, questioning where he thinks he's off to. The voice asks if he's so quick to forget them all the souls who were left behind. In an instant, spectral figures swarm him from all directions, crying out for a bloody campaign of revenge. But Baek flatly denies their plea. He declares that he's exhausted and has already sacrificed more than enough, believing this is his only way out, but Young-jin shouts his name. He pays the call, no mind, stating he's returning to his own world and leaving his partner with a sad, enigmatic smile. He asks him to pass on his apologies to the others before slamming the button. Smash cut to a boy jolting awake in his bed, absolutely terrified. Panting hard, he sits bolt upright and scans his surroundings, realizing he's in his old bedroom. A wave of shock hits him as he wonders if he actually made it home, and how much time had gone by. Snatching his phone, he sees it's the very same day he was ripped away to that other world. Zero time has passed. He rushes to a mirror and sees that his powerful, battle-hardened hunter's body has vanished, making it all feel like a fever dream. But the memories from that personal hell come flooding back, invading his thoughts. His eyes burn with hatred as he relives the gruesome battles. He remembers the feeling of fighting in chains against freakish monsters and all the violent acts he was forced to commit simply to survive. A vision of a girl's face flashes in his mind, begging him for help, pleading that she didn't want to die. The director's threat echoes in his skull, and he knows with chilling certainty it was never a dream. The sensations were far too vivid. The 10 years he endured there were terrifyingly real. All of a sudden, his phone begins to vibrate on the desk, showing an incoming call from Young Naeon. The name feels familiar, but he can't pinpoint where he knows it from. When he picks up, the girl on the other end erupts, demanding to know if he bailed on the promise they made. She reminds him they had a deal to meet up tonight and orders him to get his butt over there immediately. Without even letting him get a word in, she just hangs up on him. After a beat of stunned silence, it finally clicks, and he recognizes that voice. It belonged to his only close colleague, the one person he considered a true friend at his job. And with that realization, the absolute worst memory surfaces. She was the one who persuaded him to try playing Reverse Planet. A dark suspicion forms in his mind, and he knows he has to find her. The scene transitions to the outside of a restaurant. He steps inside and almost instantly hears that same familiar voice calling out to him. It's Naeon, waving him over from one of the tables with a massive smile, saying it feels like it's been ages since they last saw each other. After he sits down, she asks if he plans on drinking tonight, but Baek tells her he's going to pass on the alcohol. He knows it would be a reckless move to drink in his current state, so the girl just says she'll order food. Moments later, the meat is delivered to their table. It immediately begins to sizzle on the grill, filling the air with a mouth-watering scent, but she gets right down to business. She asks if he's had a chance to play that Reverse Planet game. He tells her he only got as far as creating his character and watching the intro, which seems to shock her. She scoffs that you can't even call that playing, which causes his face to harden. Beneath the table, his hand clenches into a white-knuckled fist. His mind screams about the decade of hell he suffered because of her, but she's totally oblivious, complaining that he promised to be a regular guest on her stream. Then it all falls into place. He remembers she was a streamer, which explains why she was so pushy about the game. Despite his rage, a strange sense of relief washes over him, because this confirms he's truly back. We cut to him in his room, already deep into his computer. He's scouring the internet for any clues about the game, eventually finding the corporation that made it, and discovering their headquarters is in the United States. But he scraps that idea almost immediately, knowing full well that nobody on Earth would ever believe such a bat-crap insane story. He recalls the kind of danger that would put him in. The terrifying what-ifs swarmed his mind. What if they found him, completely defeated? He couldn't help but wonder what the point of all this investigating even was. He made it out. That's all that mattered. He decided to just drop it. He was going to wipe the whole nightmare from his memory. Time to focus on the real world again. With a newfound resolve, he got dressed, ready to slam the door on the past. And just like that, he started over. He started hitting up his friends again, desperately trying to build some kind of normal life. Baek Woo-hyun actually started going to school, trying his best to just be a regular dude. But even in the middle of class, the scars etched across his back were a constant, burning reminder of the hell he'd survived. But then, a dark voice whispered in his mind, taunting him, asking if he truly ever came back. Suddenly, he whipped his head around, a cold chill running down his spine, as if he'd just felt an unseen presence. He frantically scanned the classroom, trying to figure out what was going on, but the visions came rushing back with a vengeance. The tormented souls were screaming, demanding revenge, begging him to kill. Overwhelmed by the psychic assault, he accidentally knocked his phone off the desk, and it hit the floor with a loud crack. Every student stared, wondering what was up with the resident weirdo. Unable to take the eyes on him, he bolted from the classroom and into the empty hallway. Totally lost, he slumped against the wall, and a shadowy hand clamped down on his shoulder, whispering his name. The second a classmate actually touched him, his combat instincts took over, and he grabbed the boy's arm in a vice grip. Baek twisted his arm on pure instinct, leaving the other student completely stunned by the sudden violence. In that instant, a horrifying vision seared his mind, himself holding a dagger dripping with blood, the memory of ambushing someone from behind flooding his senses. The kid cried out, asking what he was doing, which finally snapped him out of it. He immediately let go of his classmate, apologizing and rambling about how he got spooked and wasn't thinking straight. The student mentioned that everyone's been noticing how strange he's been acting lately. Trying to get a grip, Baek grabbed a soda from the vending machine and cracked it open. After that, he found an empty bench in the courtyard and sat down, just trying to breathe. But it was no use. One of the dark souls materialized at his feet, whispering his name again as the voices swirled around him, pleading with him to return and get revenge for them all. He just told them to shut up. That's when Neon appeared out of nowhere, calling out his name. When she saw the absolute despair on his face, she rushed over, saying he looked ghostly pale, and asking if something had happened. He tried to brush it off, insisting he was fine, but it was a total lie. The girl offered to help, and in that moment, something clicked in his head. He abruptly said goodbye, telling her he had to go back, as the phantom souls clung to his feet. The scene snaps to a sterile room with a single capsule, and he finally accepts that this torment is never going to end. So, if the souls refused to leave him in peace, he was going to settle this himself. He placed his hand on the machine. He thought to himself that this world wasn't any different from that hell anymore. With a look of grim determination, he climbed into the capsule, ready to dive back into that nightmare. Only this time, he was going to make damn sure he finished it the right way, once and for all. A system message welcomed him back. He materializes in what looks like the game's tutorial. Catching his reflection, he realizes he's in the waiting room of the in-game lab. But he was pissed. He wanted to go back to hell, not this clean, peaceful lobby. The system prompted him to confirm his appearance. He figured he might as well play along with the tutorial for now. First thing, he dove into the settings and switched off the combat assist. He was way past needing training wheels for that. The game then shifted to skill configuration, telling him to pick an element. Then, the skill tree popped up the system used to power up your character. The whole element framework is called a build, and there are literally professional gamers who research this stuff. He instantly remembered the build that turned him into a superhuman monster and selected it without a second thought. Abruptly, a loudspeaker crackled to life, a voice addressing him as Test Subject Number 48. The voice then informed him that a week had passed since the last experiment, which made him freeze. He realized the game conveniently fast-forwards through the awakening process, which was basically a torture session. He figured no sane person would ever want to experience that, even in a game. The voice then instructed him to proceed to the next room to start the experiment. But when he peered inside, he was greeted by a massive combat robot just waiting for him. He recognized the machine instantly, an Etnel robot. It was specifically designed to eliminate the project's test subjects. And with that, his first tutorial mission appeared: defeat the giant robot. But he noticed something off about it. It was one of the earliest, clunkiest models of the machine. At that exact moment, a traumatic memory surged back. a young boy screaming, begging him for help. He remembered the absolute massacre that robot was responsible for, how it slaughtered everyone right in front of him. With its single red eye glowing ominously, the machine powered up for an attack. The Etnel then charged, full throttle, ready to obliterate him without a hint of mercy. But he stood his ground, thinking that this situation was no different from the hell he just left. His eyes began to glow a brilliant gold, his anger at the researchers' cruelty boiling over. The Etnel swung with colossal force, aiming a devastating blow straight for the protagonist's head. However, with an incredible burst of speed, he dodged the strike like it was in slow motion. The machine's other arm lashed out, trying to grab him in a relentless assault, but he effortlessly evaded it once again. He stalks toward the robot's chassis, slamming a hand against the cold metal, figuring the final build is tough, but this prototype is just a knockoff. With one brutal strike, he completely shatters the machine's head, putting his raw power on full display. The resulting explosion sends shrapnel flying across the entire floor. A synthetic voice then crackles over the loudspeaker, declaring the experiment a success and his performance exemplary. With the tutorial mission officially cleared, the voice praises his off-the-charts aptitude for skills. But just as the system preps for the next trial, a strange, crackling energy begins to envelop him. Suddenly, alarms blare to life. The calm announcer's voice is now a desperate scream, yelling about a government invasion. In an instant, a woman hijacks the entire system. Her message is broadcast to all the test subjects. She tells them to use the power they were given and escape the facility, and he immediately recognizes her voice. Just like that, his second tutorial mission pops up. Escape the laboratory. A massive explosion rocks the building, and he knows. His number one priority is getting the hell out. He bolts through the decimated hallway, wondering just how many bombs have already detonated. He rounds a corner into a blazing inferno and comes face to face with a critically injured soldier. The man clocks him as one of the victims, and grunts that if he's made it this far, he must be desperate to live. To even the odds, the soldier triggers a hidden mechanism, telling him he can give him a little boost. A section of the wall retracts, unveiling a fully stocked armory. Take whatever you need, the soldier urges, shoving a flare into his hand. Pop this when you get outside. It'll signal for rescue. An instant later, the soldier's arm falls limp. Our hero wonders if the man just died right in front of him. He pauses for a second, just staring at the arsenal laid out before him. But then he spots the wreckage of the robot and remembers this is all just a game. This has to be a cinematic cutscene. He walks right past the high-tech firearms and instead grabs a much more sinister-looking scythe, attached to a long chain. The moment he grips it, that strange energy surges through him as ghostly apparitions swirl around him. The perspective shifts to a young woman, letting out a groan at having to stream the most mainstream game in the entire country. This is Kang Soyol, a pro streamer, whose indie gamer cred is taking a massive hit. In her live chat, viewers are absolutely clowning on her, but she fires back that this was their donation goal. She insists that a promise is a promise, one she'd never break for her fans, but her chat is ruthless, immediately spamming all the time she totally bailed on her promises. Trying to pivot, she announces the official start of her challenge to conquer Reverse Planet. Inside the game, she finalizes her character's look and selects the fire element as her affinity. Then, she navigates to the combat assistance setting, which is at a default 50%, but her chat instantly floods with messages, demanding she crank it down to 0 and clear the tutorial with no help at all. She flashes back to her research. The clear rate for the tutorial with 0 assistance is basically non-existent. She knows she's a cracked gamer, but playing with no assist is a certified suicide run. But right as she's about to refuse, a special quest alert appears, offering a fat stack of cash as a reward. Her eyes practically turn into dollar signs. She flips her opinion on a dime, declaring that a true streamer always accepts a challenge. So, she announces she's going in with 0 assistance and dashes off excitedly to start her run. Standing before the first gate, she nervously asks her chat if they're 100% sure about this. The result is an absolute disaster. She gets flattened in 2 minutes flat and bursts into tears, whining about how unfair the game is. Her chat kind of agrees, but is mostly just spamming emotes and roasting her for getting wiped by a tutorial bot. Back at the respawn point, she sighs that all she has to do now is escape, but a new system window interrupts her. The second mission kicks off, and the game begins an automatic party search. She wonders out loud if clearing it with a party still counts as beating the challenge, but her chat immediately accuses her of trying to get carried. The search fails, though, leaving her totally baffled, especially for a game this insanely popular. Then, her chat explains the catch. She can only party up with other players, who have also set their combat assistance to 0. The viewers lose it, laughing at the idea that she might be the one who needs to get carried this time. Just as she's about to rage quit the mission, the system finds a match and yanks her in. She's teleported away, screaming that she's totally screwed, but her words die in her throat when she sees what's waiting for her. She materializes at the rendezvous point and is greeted by a mountain of mangled robot parts. Completely shocked, she tells her chat that this situation is legit serious and not a joke. The craziest part? She realizes all this insane damage was done without any weapons. A huge grin spreads across her face as she realizes she just hit the jackpot and found the perfect gigachad to carry her to victory. The camera zooms in on a blood-soaked knife, dripping ominously onto the grimy floor. Our protagonist is standing over a body, encircled by the husks of defeated bots, a menacing purple light glowing in his eyes. He turns his head slowly, locking his gaze on her. The girl calls out tentatively, excuse me?" to the figure down the hall. But in the blink of an eye, he vanishes and reappears right in front of her, pressing the cold blade of the knife to her throat. Covered in someone else's blood, he glares at her from inches away, the tension becoming suffocating. She's frozen in shock, with the razor-sharp steel practically on her skin, with no idea what to do. Cowering, she begs him to spare her. He just blinks, then pulls the knife away. "Oh, whoops," he says, "my mistake." Spotting his suit, she clocks that they're in the same party and rushes to his side, introducing herself as the streamer Kang Soyol. She then asks for permission to record him for her stream, assuring him his face will be completely hidden, but he abruptly grinds to a halt. She's totally bewildered, wondering why he just stopped cold. Then, out of nowhere, a squad of soldiers materializes in the hallway. They scream out their orders. "We don't need him alive." Without a moment's hesitation, they unleash a merciless storm of bullets on the two of them. The streamer dives for cover, absolutely freaking out and complaining about how insane the tutorial's difficulty is. In the middle of the chaos, she starts worrying about the guy who was supposed to be her carry, yelling to see if he's okay through the gunfire. But he's effortlessly weaving through every single bullet in midair, like they're moving in slow motion. He then uses his weapons chain to launch himself forward and blitzes the soldiers. He transforms into a pure blur of destruction, neutralizing everyone and leaving the girl and her entire chat completely stunned. From her hiding spot, she asks her chat if this is even possible, because it looks completely unreal. She's baffled, wondering what kind of skill he could possibly be using, especially since the color of his eyes has completely changed. A viewer chimes in, explaining that it's the perfect being skill. This just leaves her more baffled. She remembers that's a famously useless skill that literally prevents you from using any other abilities. And here's the breakdown on the perfect being skill, a core element of the game. It skyrockets your physical stats to an insane degree, but the catch is, it locks you out of every other skill in the game. Because of this crippling disadvantage, it's universally known as the single worst skill you can pick. The streamer is absolutely stumped that someone would intentionally choose a build like that. It makes zero sense. She considers that maybe it's a strategy to hyper-focus on stats, but he's still only at level 1. So how in the world is he pulling off these Matrix-level moves, dodging a literal bullet hell? Utterly mystified, she questions who this mysterious player truly is. In the blink of an eye, he eliminates another soldier with a vicious and brutal strike. And just like that, the hallway is cleared, a path paved with fallen bodies. But dark, spectral voices begin to whisper in his mind, hissing that this isn't nearly enough. They swarm his thoughts, demanding a far more savage revenge, their thirst for vengeance still unquenched. Without warning, a sniper appears at the far end of the hall, taking aim. The crosshairs of the sniper's scope zero in on its target, ready to deliver the killing blow and end everything. Soyol feels the imminent danger and screams a warning, trying to tell him he's about to be shot. But in a shockingly swift motion, he yanks her in front of him, using her body as a human shield to absorb the impact. The sniper doesn't let up, continuing to fire as bullets ricochet wildly around the corridor. Realizing he missed his chance, the sniper seethes with rage, while the streamer is knocked to the floor. But using a gun she managed to grab, she retaliates with a perfectly aimed headshot, taking the soldier down. She collapses on the ground, panting with relief, as her chat erupts, accusing her of kill-stealing from the main character. He then walks over and asks her how it felt to put that guy down. Flashing a triumphant grin, she brags that at least she proved she could be useful. Suddenly, a vivid memory flashes through his mind, a little girl's voice, happily calling his name. It's a flashback to his past, surrounded by the other prisoners from that nightmarish facility. Snapping back to the present, she calls out to him, but he just gives her a cold, empty stare. She gets a bad feeling and asks if he's mad at her, but his reply is chillingly flat. No. He says she was a big help, which causes the chat to explode over how kind he is. Overjoyed, she asks if they can team up for the tutorial, and he simply agrees. As they begin to walk, he introduces himself as Baek Woo-yoon, which catches her completely off guard. She then has to ask if it's for real. Did he actually pick the perfect being skill? He confirms it without hesitation. Overcome with curiosity, she asks how he dodges bullets, but he dismisses the question, saying he doesn't really like games. He then halts again, and she asks him, confused by yet another sudden stop. Bake warns her that there are two Edenel robots positioned about 20 meters ahead. She's completely floored, since he shouldn't have any detection skills to know that information. But just a few moments later, two massive robots stomp into the hallway, proving his senses were dead on. He calmly walks toward them, remarking that he actually used to love playing in the game's Coliseum. With a dark energy radiating from him, he charges and unleashes a devastating blow on one of the mechs. The strike connects with explosive force, completely obliterating the machine. He carries on the assault, mentioning how intensely he used to play back in his Coliseum days. With a look of pure confidence, he reveals he was skilled enough to hit the official rankings, and with one final, crushing impact, he annihilates the last robot, effortlessly clearing their path. The chat goes absolutely ballistic, and she asks if being a Coliseum ranker is really that big of a deal. Someone then explains that back in the day, those rankers became the first pro players, legends like the famous player Butler. She's completely shook, since Butler is the most legendary pro player in the world. Back just calls for her to move out, and she scrambles to follow, buzzing with excitement over this massive revelation. They finally reach the end of the long corridor, where a masked figure is waiting for them. So you've dragged yourselves all the way here, the man sneers, threatening that this very spot is about to become their tomb. A wicked grin spreads across his face. It's the tutorial boss, the guard captain, sneering that they're about to join their dead comrades. The moment Bake hears this, his entire demeanor shifts, his face contorts with pure, unadulterated rage and a thirst for vengeance, as the ethereal souls of his fallen friends begin to appear. They twist in spectral agony on the ground, their voices whispering into his mind, urging him to quickly slaughter the monster who took them down. The captain roars, charging straight for them, and vowing that none of them will escape alive. Soul instantly snaps into a defensive stance to help. She starts unloading her weapon to lay down cover fire for Bake, but her rounds just spark and deflect off the boss, who's surrounded by some kind of shimmering barrier. She screams that she'll provide backup, but Bake just stares back at her with a chillingly empty gaze, thinking that even if this is just a game, he's going to unleash every last bit of his power on this man. In a single, explosive movement, he lands a devastating blow that makes the captain feel the raw force of the impact. The collision unleashes a massive shockwave, blasting the boss backward with overwhelming power, leaving the streamer utterly stunned. She has no idea what just unfolded. The captain, however, scrambles to his feet in a fury, screaming at the protagonist. He calls him a disgusting, worthless insect. A chilling frost crackles around his gauntlets as he launches himself at Bake with everything he's got. Bake effortlessly sidesteps the icy assault, which completely obliterates the floor where he was just standing, enraging the captain even more. He furiously demands to know how long Bake thinks he can keep dodging. He then unleashes a spinning vortex of ice that hurtles toward Bake, and the attack connects, sending him flying. He's slammed with brutal force into the hallway wall, but he pushes himself up, balling his fist, poised to counter the enemy's assault with a direct strike. He drives his fist square into the captain's face, who visibly reels from the crushing impact. The boss stumbles back from the sheer power of the punch, all while Bake glares at him with an ice-cold expression. Abruptly, the whispers of the souls return, telling him not to unleash his full strength just yet. They hiss that the captain doesn't deserve a quick death, pleading with him to rip the man to shreds. The captain, completely baffled, can only wonder aloud. How could a simple test subject possess this insane level of power? Bake glances down at his own hands and replies with chilling calm, saying he has the captain to thank for it. With one final, devastating blow, a spray of crimson explodes across the room, ending the battle for good, as the system confirms his victory. Saul is completely speechless, struggling to process what just happened. She starts cheering that they finally took down the boss, while Bake just looms over the body. He then raises his fist to deliver the finishing blow, but the streamer shouts his name, telling him it's time to get out of there. He agrees and turns away, leaving the captain's crumpled form on the ground as they head through the exit door. Saul lets out a huge sigh of relief, celebrating that they actually managed to escape. Just then, the system officially confirms their success. She asks if he's planning to jump into the main questline, but he shuts her down, saying that's more than enough for him. He's done for the day and is logging off. But she quickly tells him to wait just a second, because she has an offer for him. Her words pique his curiosity, and the streamer immediately ends her live broadcast, hyping up her chat that the challenge was a massive success. After the stream cuts, she turns to him with a genuine thanks, and he looks at her with a hint of hope, asking about her proposal. She asks if he would consider being a regular feature on her streams. He looks a little thrown off, so she clarifies that she plans to focus on main quests and a lot of PvP content. The girl presses on, promising to work around his availability, and even offering to pay him, but he flat out turns her down. From the look on his face, she knows there's zero point in pushing it. So instead, she asks if she can at least add him as a friend in the game. He finally caves and agrees. Before she goes, she says her goodbyes, telling him she had a blast playing with him, and then logs out. Now alone, he reflects on how he finally cleared the game's tutorial, but a nagging question surfaces in his mind. He wonders why he still hasn't been sent back to the other side. Meanwhile, in a different place, someone is frantically typing on a keyboard. They're posting all about the incident. At that moment, Bake had no clue about the firestorm his gameplay was about to ignite, all across the internet. To make things even weirder, an anonymous donation pops up carrying a seriously ominous message. It asks what it feels like to be back in reality. The scene then cuts to the headquarters of Planet Earth, the corporation behind the game. Inside, the entire development team was in a state of absolute panic, all because of a single player. One of the employees is rewatching the gameplay footage. He's in total disbelief at what he's witnessing. The team debates how this guy beat a boss with 0 weapons and no aim assist. The worried team leader asks if they're certain it wasn't a hack, but the lead technician confirms they've scrubbed everything and found no trace of program modifications. He explains that he's seen every type of hacker imaginable, from the ones who can clip through walls, but he's never, ever witnessed movements this ridiculously precise. The young man then yells that this level of control is physically impossible to achieve, even with the best cheat engine. The boss then speculates that it might be a completely new, undiscovered type of hack. Either way, he declares that they have to get to the bottom of this situation, and fast. The scene then shifts over to Wooyan. He's chilling with Nayeon at a coffee shop. He asks her, looking a little surprised, if the online forums are really blowing up because of him. Absolutely buzzing with excitement, she confirms that the internet is in total meltdown over his performance. Nayeon then shows him that the community's consensus is that his insane achievement was definitely a confirmed hack. Nayeon admits her jaw hit the floor watching the clip, and Woohyun just shrugs, saying it's a good thing she even knew it was him. She's like, dude, I knew you were cracked, but not that cracked. And for him, that explains the message he got. She immediately asks what message he's talking about, but he gets a little shifty. Then you can see the gears turning in her head, and it clicks. She shouts, no way. Did the game devs hit you up? Are they seriously trying to bust you for hacking? He just gives a simple nod, explaining that the invitation was actually passed along by the streamer who broadcast his fight. Nayeon starts stressing about all the drama this is going to stir up, asking if he's really going to accept the challenge. Woohyun pauses, lost in thought. This is his one and only shot to get in front of the game developers, so he finally confirms he's in, sending his friend into a full-blown hype spiral. She thinks it's the perfect chance to clear his name, but he waves it off, saying he couldn't care less about that. Nayeon fires back that his fighting style is completely unique. She insists it would be impossible not to recognize his moves, explaining that even the top-tier pros are given away by their signature habits. Her words leave him thinking. She slumps into her chair, relieved, admitting she's glad he accepted because it would take the heat off the streamer. He's totally lost, failing to see how any of this connects back to the girl, but she looks at him with pure impatience. She lays it out for him. The angry mob would come for him first, sure, but they would eventually turn their rage on the streamer who gave him the platform. The thought of the streamer getting caught in the crossfire has Woohyun staring into his glass. A silent, pivotal decision is made. Then, the scene snaps over to Kang Soyeol. She gets his message and explodes with joy, massively relieved. She can already see the view counts going through the roof. Parked in front of her setup, she immediately starts hammering out the announcement, telling her entire community to get ready for a legendary event. And with that, the official announcement drops. The stream to settle the hack controversy is officially on. 4 days crawl by, and the moment of truth finally arrives. Inside the world of Reverse Planet, Woo Hyun's avatar materializes. The streamer, Soyeol, greets him, absolutely buzzing with energy as she runs up, apologizing for all the chaos. But he's cool with it, saying it's no big deal. He then cuts straight to the chase, asking if she also thinks he's using some kind of cheat. Soyeol instantly denies it. No way. She says she saw the unhinged intensity in his eyes, and you just can't fake that. He finds her reason pretty interesting. She just tells him it's time to get the show on the road, and with a bright smile and a wave, Soyeol kicks off the live stream. As she welcomes her audience, her eyes go wide at the insane viewer count. She announces that the man of the hour, Woo Hyun, is here to put all the rumors to rest. With the calm of a seasoned pro, Woo Hyun formally introduces himself to the thousands of people watching. Soyeol begs the chat to behave, then turns to Woo Hyun for his take on the whole drama before they get started. He just calls it absurd that this is even a debate, which immediately splits the chat. Soyeol then drops a bombshell. A special guest is here for the verification. At that very moment, a man materializes out of a pillar of blue light right in front of them. He introduces himself as Park Gumyeon, the head of operations for the game company itself. Woo Hyun instantly realizes this guy might have answers, and he fully intends to grill him after the test. The streamer thanks the exec for coming and politely introduces Woo Hyun, while the leader just sizes the player up. His internal thought? This kid, he doesn't look like anything special. The exec announces he's guiding them to the official verification area. They're teleported to a private training room that leaves even Soyeol impressed. The GM explains they'll be observing his combat skills. It's a place Woo Hyun has never seen before. The leader then asks if he agrees to the terms. He accepts without a moment's hesitation. The executive then strides toward a massive metal door to begin the test. It groans open slowly, revealing the monster waiting inside for our protagonist. From the darkness emerges a massive training robot with glowing red eyes. The leader announces they'll kick things off with the intermediate-level robot. Woo Hyun's focus sharpens to a razor's edge. A dark memory flashes in his mind, shadowy hands grabbing at him, screaming for revenge, all while the exec watches the feed on his tablet. A cruel smile spreads across the exec's face as he thinks, now, they'll just kill each other. But a sudden, deafening crash shatters the silence. Completely thrown, the man whips around only to find an empty space. He has no idea where the player disappeared to. Startled, he looks back at his tablet. The words kill each other, echoing in his mind. That's when the screen begins to shake violently. The glass strains, almost cracking from the sheer intensity of the scene, before the entire device shatters in his hands as he stands there, speechless at what he's witnessing. On the feed, Woo Hyun, shrouded in a sinister aura, is literally annihilating the robot with his bare hands. The exec realizes instantly this wasn't a hack. This was power on a completely different level. Woo Hyun plants his foot on the robot's smoking wreckage, signaling the fight was long over. He coolly informs the leader that the first test is done, leaving the man utterly frozen in shock. The exec confirms there was no hack detected but complains the fight was too quick. He then challenges Woo Hyun to fight in a very specific way. The young man agrees on the spot. This new test is designed to prove he isn't using an auto-combat hack. The GM then tasks him with defeating 3 robots at once, using only a chainsaw. Even the exec knows the conditions are ridiculously unfair, making victory look like a total pipe dream. Then, without a single warning, 3 brand new training bots materialize out of thin air, boxing our protagonist in. But even outnumbered and outgunned, Woo Hyun doesn't even flinch. He starts spinning his chain at an absolutely absurd speed, turning it into a literal blur. He rockets forward with insane agility, sliding under one bot's attack as he winds up his own, skidding across the polished floor. The young man whips the chain, using the momentum to slingshot himself around and knock his targets completely off balance. In a flash, he snares one of the robots in his chains, turning it into a makeshift wrecking ball. His eyes are locked in with a laser focus, mapping out every single move for the perfect takedown. And in the blink of an eye, all 3 bots are reduced to nothing but scrap metal, with zero chance to even process what happened. Totally hyped, Soyeol screams that she knew his chain moved like it had a mind of its own. But the leader is on a whole different wavelength, thinking to himself that they've already snagged enough data for their analysis. Still, a little thought creeps in. He wonders how this player would handle a real challenge, like an advanced level machine. A sly grin spreads across his face as he decides it's time to crank this test up to 11. Right on cue, a massive new door grinds open. Thick, theatrical smoke floods the arena, and from within the darkness, 2 sinister red eyes flare to life, staring daggers right at our protagonist. A new robot, this one with a terrifyingly human silhouette, emerges from the fog with a slow, deliberate walk. The GM's voice booms out, announcing the final test is against the advanced robot model, Edible. Woo Hyun is frozen solid, a flicker of recognition in his eye as he processes the machine's name. Now, the hero and the robot stand face to face in a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, a horrifying vision of a brutal massacre flashes through our protagonist's mind. The edible robot's face then contorts into a twisted, bone-chilling grin, like it's actually enjoying the psychological torment. With pure hatred burning in his eyes, Woo Hyun's aura flares to life, signaling to everyone that this just got deeply personal. In a split second, the machine explodes forward, its fist a blur of motion. He manages to twist away, but not fast enough, earning a fresh cut across his cheek. But a smirk plays on his lips at the challenge. He clenches his fist until his knuckles are white, bracing himself to counter the bot's assault. Wasting zero time, he unleashes a powerful counterstrike, slamming his fist dead center into the machine's chassis. The exchange of blows is so freaking intense they're literally tearing the arena walls apart. He instantly realizes this thing's power is on another level. A single clean hit could be fatal. But to make things even worse, the robot's armor was ridiculously tanky. His attacks weren't even leaving a scratch, highlighting the massive difference in their power levels. Spotting an opening, the machine surges forward again. It gives him zero time to think, so he decides on a new strategy, a relentless, non-stop barrage until something finally connects. Watching from the control room, Soyul and the leader are on the edge of their seats, captivated by the sheer brutality of this throwdown. The man is in disbelief that this kid is actually managing to go toe-to-toe with their top-tier robot. Slowly but surely, the protagonist starts to dominate the battle. He's completely turning the tables in his favor, and with that, the leader decides he's seen more than enough and pulls the plug on the test. Out of nowhere, the robot pixelates into nothing in a flash of blue light, leaving Woo Hyun standing there totally confused. The GM explains that he just despawned the machine, since they had already collected all the data they needed. He confirms that there was no hack involved, proving Woo Hyun's skill is 100% legit. Soyul is ecstatic, celebrating that they've finally proven he wasn't some hacker, squashing all the rumors. She then hammers the point home to her audience that his skills are so insane they actually look like hacks. And with that final thought, she ends the stream. It peaked with over 100,000 viewers watching live. The leader thanks both of them for showing up, but Woo Hyun just shrugs it off, saying it was no big deal. The GM, clearly impressed by his humility, gets ready to dip but is stopped by him. Woo Hyun says he has a really important question, which gets the man's attention. He then asks if there's a bug in the game, a bug that literally stops someone from being able to log out. But the leader denies it, saying he's never heard of a game-breaking error that severe. The man says his goodbyes and vanishes in a flash of blue light, leaving the two players standing alone in the wrecked arena. Soyul thanks him again and offers to split the cash from the stream, and he tells her to go ahead and contact him. She thinks to herself it would be a huge waste to just let a talent like him go, but he can sense she's holding something back. In the end, she chickens out, says goodbye, and vanishes too. She silently promises she'll find him again later. The scene cuts, and now Neon is calling him, hyped to try out the PvP mode. We're told that PvP, or player versus player, is a huge part of the game's core experience. He asks her if that's the only reason she hit him up, and she just yanks him along, buzzing with excitement for a fight. Neon insists that PvP is the absolute heart of the game, and that he can't just brush it off. But Woo Hyun is thinking that while the story mode reminds him way too much of his old world, PvP offers something completely new. She then starts breaking down the modes, starting with Duel, which is a classic one-on-one or two-on-two battle. Next, she pulls up Conflict mode. It features 5-on-5 team battles. And finally, Survival, a massive battle royale where the last person standing takes the win. She suggests they hop into a team battle and even offers to help him with his character build, but he turns her down flat. He thinks to himself that he already has the perfect build, the exact same one that made him a living legend in his other world. With that thought, he starts setting up his skills. While Neon gets herself ready for the match, the young man decides their starting point should be the military base. A total death trap. Nayeon gets totally hyped and begs to record the match, and he finally caves. Psyched, she smashes the start button without a second thought. The system immediately confirms their drop point, the military base. As the 60-second timer ticks down, she gives him a casual wave, hoping they both make it out of this alive. Cut to the players spawning across the map, all of them gearing up for the impending chaos. Elsewhere, some random player is complaining that the loot in the hallway is absolute garbage. He knows he needs to bail, fast. But lurking just out of view, Woo Hyun melts out of the shadows. In that instant, the entire base explodes into a war zone of gunfire and detonations. That's when the kill feed goes absolutely ballistic, just a constant stream of Woo Hyun's name taking out player after player. She's left totally speechless. One player, wondering what in the hell is going on, is caught completely off guard, ambushed from behind. With zero time to react, a single clean strike from Woo Hyun drops him. He surveys the area and realizes he's cleared out the entire zone. He's reminded of how he used to mow down entire armies back in his own world, and for a moment, he thinks the slaughter is finished. He turns to leave, but something catches his eye. A desperate, crackling voice message from Nayeon comes through. She's begging for help. He yanks open the map and sees her icon blinking on the far side of the compound, way too far away. Without skipping a beat, he demands her exact position. "Third floor rooftop," she replies, warning him to be careful. With firefights raging on every floor of the building, he tears through the chaos at a dead sprint, blasting past other players shouting warnings about him. One of the guys is stunned, silent by his sheer speed, while his buddy charges up a fire attack, but our protagonist just weaves right past the flames. He blocks a blade with his gauntlet, and in one fluid motion, grabs the enemy's arm and completely smothers the fire ability. Then he takes the guy out with a single, precise blow, leaving his partner frozen in shock. The remaining player becomes enraged. He unleashes a dark, swirling aura, revealing his true power. With a furious roar, he launches a devastating blast straight at Woo Hyun. but Woo Hyun just vaults right over the wave of energy, dodging the attack with unbelievable agility. The player is livid to see his ultimate move fail, so pathetically. Before the guy can even blink, our protagonist closes the distance and slashes him with his knife. With an icy stare, he confirms another kill, clearing his path to the building. He immediately breaks back into a full-speed sprint. He ignores the trail of bodies in his wake and, along the way, even manages to clip another enemy without slowing down. Another player lines up a perfect shot, thinking he has a chance, but gets effortlessly taken down from behind. He finally reaches the building and pings Nayeon. She offers to provide sniper support from the roof, but he tells her to stay put for now as he gets ready to breach. He presses his ear to the door, carefully listening, trying to sense the enemy presence inside. He can feel at least 5 of them. They're waiting for him in the darkened room, so he kicks the door in and steps inside, but someone was already hiding right there for an ambush. The enemy smirks, ready to plunge a knife into our protagonist's back, but in less than a heartbeat, Woo Hyun's hand clamps down on his wrist. The attack stops dead in midair. The guy is in total disbelief, unable to process how his perfect ambush was just shut down. With a lightning-fast move, Woo Hyun flips the script and strikes the enemy from behind, eliminating him. He lets the body drop, thinking he has to hurry up and get to Nayeon. Not wasting a single moment, he bolts up the stairs, leaving a wake of defeated enemies behind him. And with that, the kill feed lights up again, showing him taking out 4 more players in rapid succession. Watching the notifications from outside, Nayeon is floored by the carnage. She realizes Woo Hyun isn't just fighting, he's farming enemies without even breaking a sweat. But suddenly, she feels a presence creeping up right behind her. It puts her on high alert. It was Woo Hyun, who had appeared from nowhere and completely startled her. Using a speed skill, he snatches her chainsaw, and she complains that he nearly gave her a heart attack. She says she didn't even see him move, and he wonders if she was ever in any real danger. Nayeon asks if he wiped the entire building, and he just questions the insane weapon she chose. Totally hyped, she announces she'll carry the rest of the game now, which actually makes him laugh. With the game over, the results screen declares their victory, with Woo Hyun racking up 25 kills. Back in the lobby, they see they've hit a 10-game winning streak and decide to call it a night. She then just stares at him, realizing her friend is an absolute gaming demon. The streamer, Soil, excitedly tells him to give her a few days, promising a massive streaming contract is coming his way. But he flat out refuses, saying he's not interested since he doesn't even intend to play the main story. Still, she begs him to reconsider before saying goodbye. Disappearing in a shower of blue light, Woo Hyun is left alone, frustrated that even the PvP mode gave him 0 clues. The scene cuts back to the real world, showing the city silent in the dead of night. In her room, the streamer Soil was lying in bed, staring excitedly at her phone. She was scrolling through the community forums, which were completely exploding with posts about her stream. Overjoyed, she just rolled around in bed celebrating, knowing she had absolutely hit the jackpot. She remembers the peak viewer count, still unable to believe it soared past 100,000 viewers, and with that realization, she feels a sudden sting of regret. She was totally daydreaming about co-streaming with Woo Hyun, but reality hit hard when she remembered how he shut down the idea of ever becoming a streamer. So, her first move, she figures, is to at least get him paid for the stream they did. But the moment she checks their earnings, her eyes practically bug out of her head in disbelief. The scene snaps to the next day, with Woo Hyun meeting Nayeon at a cafe. She flips open her laptop and shows him a full-blown streamer project, leaving him completely lost. Nayeon launches into the presentation she painstakingly put together, but he is 100% not impressed. He reminds her she said he could just play by himself, without having to engage with a single soul, so she pivots to a whole new concept, a kind of variety/observation show. The pitch is simple. A cast would watch his gameplay and provide all the commentary. This way, she explains, his only job is to dominate the game, and she'd handle 100% of the talking. She even throws in the idea of bringing on a pro commentator if they needed extra hype. Nayeon sweetens the deal with an even 50-50 profit split, but he keeps hitting her with a hard no. That's when it dawns on her. The payment from Soil must have already gone through. He pulls out his phone to check. He hunts for that email he got earlier, the one he hadn't even bothered to open. The message displayed a payout of 6.6 million won, with a special donation attached. Nayeon's jaw drops at the insane amount, but Woo Hyun's eyes are glued to the donation message, reading every word. The kid freezes solid, looking like he's just seen a ghost. The messages were from some viewer who knew he had returned from that place. He realizes this person doesn't just know his secret past, their screen name is a massive clue. Utterly panicked, he leaps out of his chair. Who could possibly know, he thinks, spiraling. He desperately asks her to trace the donor, but she has to break the news that it's against the rules. That's when it hits him. The only channel he has to communicate with this mysterious person is through streaming. His mind is made up. He declares he'll become a streamer, leaving Naeon absolutely floored. But to lock it in, Woo-hyun tells her he has a single condition she has to accept. Friday night rolls in, a time when the city unwinds. But for the hardcore gamers, it's prime time to assemble in front of their screens. The game's forums were on fire, the entire community holding its breath for Superman's stream. We then cut to the virtual studio, 5 minutes before they're scheduled to go live. Naeon was visibly a wreck, but her partner tries to calm her nerves, telling her they were more than prepared. He introduces himself as Cha Sung-chol, a professional caster for the game Reverse Planet. He casually mentions that he never thought anyone, aside from Soyeol, could ever manage to get Superman on a stream. In that instant, the on-air light flashes red, signaling the start of the legendary broadcast. Putting on a brave face, Naeon and Sung-cheol introduce themselves to the thousands of viewers flooding in. She starts to get a little awkward, noticing the chat is already getting heated about the main event not being on screen. But then, a twist. She reveals that Superman was already logged into the game, waiting for the signal. She explains the whole format is observational, with them breaking down the hero's every move. Naeon then hypes up the crowd, asking if they're finally ready to witness the match. She shoots a text to Woo-hyun, giving him the green light to kick things off. With that, a distorted voice crackles over a radio signal, rambling on about some kind of interdimensional agency. The voice explains that the objective is to rescue survivors, so they can make it out of the forest alive. Then, a mission screen materializes, ordering him to link up with the agency. He stares out at the forest, and a cold dread washes over him. The landscape is a perfect replica of his dark past. A traumatic memory flashes through his mind, of how he was forced to do nothing but run for his life in that other world. But with a burning look of resolve, he decides this time will be totally different. Out of nowhere, an enemy scout spots him and fires a flare into the sky, exposing his position. A heartbeat later, masked guards swarm from the shadows, completely surrounding the area to trap him. They get the command to assault him from 3 directions, setting up a deadly ambush. Without a shred of hesitation, the hostiles leap from the trees, closing in on Woo-hyun from all sides. His eyes flash with a deep-seated hatred. He vows to himself that he's going to finish every last one of them, right here, right now. A raw need for revenge consumes him as he charges forward with murderous intent. The guards immediately open fire, unleashing a hailstorm of bullets toward the hero. But with unbelievable skill, he whips out his chain and deflects the entire volley. One of the bullets ricochets back and shatters a guard's weapon, leaving him stunned. That same bullet then strikes a grenade on another soldier's belt, causing a massive explosion that completely vaporizes the enemy. The guards call him an idiot for charging in alone, rushing him with everything they've got. But he launches into an acrobatic mid-air spin, expertly snaring 2 enemies at once with his chain. The chain cinches tight, locking the guards in place with no hope of escape. With a ferocious tug, he smashes their heads together in mid-air. Without missing a beat, the hero begins swinging the chain at an insane velocity. He then slams their bodies directly into the ground, cracking the earth and creating a small crater. The impact is absolutely brutal, leaving the enemies mangled and coughing up blood. Seizing the moment, he moves like a phantom and eliminates the other guards who were still on their feet. With razor-sharp focus, he listens for the remaining enemies as they search for him, completely ready for whatever they throw at him. To protect his identity, the broadcast automatically activates a protocol. Back in the studio, the commentators' jaws are on the floor. They are absolutely losing their minds over a playstyle this wild. Shang-cho is starting to spiral, thinking there's no way this guy is just aggroing mobs with zero strategy. It's pure insanity. And right on cue, a donation message flashes across the screen, asking if this dude's ability has literally 0 cooldown. When the question is thrown his way, the commentator shuts it down. Positive, it's not a cheat. He breaks it down. The build looks like a hack, but it's actually a galaxy brain play, using the game's core mechanics. The skill, he explains, is just a buff to his physical stats. It does nothing for his weapon skills. He says this means if a real-life Superman could even handle the strain, he could actually fight like this. With laser focus, our protagonist braces for the incoming enemy wave. But just then, a flood of new guards materializes, completely swarming him. They're closing in for the final blow when a man named Kim Chol steps onto the scene, identifying himself as the agency's top dog. So, turns out the agency is a government squad that handles invaders from another dimension. Their 9-to-5 is basically containing the insane threats that spill out of the reverse world. Woo-hyun immediately clocks the leader, stunned by the gear he's rocking. Kim Cheol then offers an apology, assuming he's just another victim, who managed to escape from the laboratory. But Woo-hyun sets the record straight, explaining he jacked the radio from an agent, who was already on the inside. The leader's face falls. He knows the agent is history, and the hero picks up on his trademark compassion. With that, Kim Cheol asks him to hang back with them. until they can properly verify who he is. The mission complete screen erupts, rewarding him with a level up and a shiny new skill point. The scene then slams to a shot of the interdimensional agency's imposing headquarters. Inside, Woo Hyun finds himself posted up in a counseling room, trying to process the insane turn his life has taken. He flashes back to the other world, to how he grinded his way up the ladder, by taking on every dirty job the corporations threw at him. The #1 gig was always subjugating the reverse world, which meant he was constantly thrown into battles against monstrous creatures. The Corps just used him as their personal cleanup crew, and that's how he first got entangled with the agency. Just then, a woman glides into the room, and memories of his past clashes with the organization hit him like a truck. She introduces herself as Lee Yu-jin, an agent from Team 1 of the Interdimensional Agency. Woo Hyun knows that name instantly. The agent gives him props for surviving this long, and with that, she lays it all out. From this moment on, he's got two paths to choose from. Path #1 was to live as a protected civilian, but he'd have to lock his powers away for good. Path #2 was to become one of them, an agent. Yu-jin warns him that if he picks the agent life, he'll be thrown into their training gauntlet first. He gets quiet, the irony hitting him hard. He's already taken out 7 of their agents, and now he has the chance to become their co-worker. She looks him dead in the eye and asks what it's going to be. The quiet life of a civilian, or the life of an agent? After a moment of deep thought, he locks his hands together, steeled for the decision he's about to make. Woo Hyun knows that being a civilian would just funnel him right back to the corporations, a life he desperately wants to leave behind. So he tells Yu-jin he's in, he's going to become an agent, and her face lights up with the news. She lets out a huge sigh of relief, muttering about how the corporations were poaching all of the agency's best talent. She uses the moment to warn him that tons of people regret signing contracts with those private companies. Yu-jin explains that they're all flash and no substance, totally lacking in experience, unlike the agency, which has a legendary track record. The agency already possesses all the crucial knowledge for training the awakened and winning real fights. But Woo Hyun already knows that even with their fat paychecks, the corporations have led countless agents to their graves. He can't forget the time he had to literally slice open some guy's stomach just to collect his payment. That single, brutal incident blew his cover and led to the agency hunting him down for a hot minute. Snapping back to the present, Yu-jin says she'll get him registered and tosses him a work phone. Woo Hyun asks what the next step is, and she tells him he'll start as a probationary agent. Before she dips, she adds that she's seriously rooting for him to land on her team. He remembers his past, feeling a deep sense of debt to Yu-jin because of what went down. After all, she was the one who spearheaded the raid on the lab that saved not just his life, but the lives of his comrades too. Watching this all unfold, a viewer is totally baffled, thinking the dialogue with the NPC is way too fluid and natural. The commentator is shook too, because NPCs aren't supposed to be able to hold a conversation like that. We're shown that the NPC Yu-jin was only coded with basic dialogue choices, not the ability to have a real back and forth. But then it clicks for Song-ju, he knows the truth. This is an incredibly advanced artificial intelligence. It's a fully responsive AI that can communicate and vibe with players on the fly. He explains that this level of tech burns through so many resources it was considered a pipe dream for online games. The shocking conclusion is that the company never solved the resource issue. Instead, they buried the AI in the game as a super secret Easter egg, and the condition to trigger it was to start the game on the hardest setting with no combat assists, which is exactly what Woo Hyun did. With this massive discovery, the girl comments that the community forums are probably about to catch fire. Far away, a famous streamer's interest is piqued, and he's already thinking about inviting this rookie on his stream as a guest. Back at the studio, Seung-kil announces that the story portion has wrapped, but now it's time for some player versus player action. The scene cuts to Woo Hyun, waiting in a desolate room for the mysterious anonymous spectator, 62. But instead of some legendary player, a single, unassuming laptop materializes before him. Meanwhile, a shadowy figure demands an immediate alert if spectator 62 makes a donation, as the announcer gets a ping from Woo Hyun. His message is simple, he's ready. She pivots to the audience, a grin on her face, announcing the day's main event will be a one-on-one showdown. The announcer points out that this is the first time the infamous physical hacker has ever entered a direct confrontation. Her co-host, Seong-chul, then breaks it down. He's starting from the absolute bottom of the general league, just like any other rookie. We see the ladder has 8 distinct ranks, and hitting bronze requires 10 consecutive wins. He notes that pros can grind this out in 30 minutes, while average Joes might take up to 2 hours. Suddenly, a pop-up mission flashes on screen, dangling a massive prize for anyone who can reach bronze in under half an hour. A streamer issues the challenge directly to Woo Hyun, who accepts with a cool, confident smirk. The two announcers are absolutely buzzing with excitement. They're dying to see if he can actually pull off the speed run. But they were completely unprepared for the storm that was coming. A match is found. The fight kicks off in a suburban arena, with 10 seconds on the clock before round 1 begins. Leaning in closer, the announcer spots a bizarre detail that throws her for a loop. It's Woo Hyun. He's dual-wielding swords, a weapon class he has never once been seen using. His opponent totally writes him off, figuring he just needs to keep his distance to bag an easy win. The countdown starts, a ticking clock that proves just how badly everyone misjudged the physical hacker. The round begins, and his opponent instantly fires off a massive ice explosion. But in a split second, the mage's smug expression melts into pure, unadulterated terror. Before he could even blink, Woo Hyun was already behind him, a cold blade pressed to his throat. With one swift, surgical strike, he shatters the opponent into a cloud of pixels. The system dings, announcing Woo Hyun's victory. He secures the first point of the match. The next opponent zones in and instantly surrenders. He recognized he was up against a smurf of the highest caliber, and with that, another win is logged without a single sword being swung. The second match gets underway, and Woo Hyun unleashes a terrifying dark energy from his blades. The enemy watches in shock as his own special ability just fizzles out of existence mid-air. Then, in the blink of an eye, our protagonist ends the fight, claiming another soul-crushing victory. In the third game, a martial artist decides to try his luck. He rushes in, throwing everything he's got into a single combo, but the result is brutally the same. He's deleted before his attack animation can even finish. His legend is spreading like wildfire, and the next opponent enters the arena, sweating bullets. The wins keep stacking up at an unbelievable pace, one after another, an unstoppable rampage. In the studio, the commentators are just watching, their jaws on the floor, unable to process what they're witnessing. And just like that, in a staggering 20 minutes, he snags 10 victories and ascends to the bronze rank. Even the diamond-ranked announcer has to admit his run was nothing short of legendary. Song Chul calls the time surreal, but says the flawless win record is even more insane. He explains that most players have a weakness, a specific build that gives them hell. But it didn't matter what his opponents ran. The physical hacker simply dismantled them. He delivered a perfect, untouchable performance in every single fight. In that moment, the mission prize lands, and a fat donation flashes across the stream. The announcer offers her thanks, saying she can't wait to see what he does in the official ranked matches. But Song Chul's face is etched with worry. Now that it's a broadcast, stream sniping is a huge risk. He tries to reassure himself that the chances of a successful snipe are slim, hoping he's just being paranoid. The cue for a ranked match pops. The map is a gloomy cemetery, and to absolutely no one's surprise, a player successfully snipes Woo Hyun, spamming chat with celebratory emotes. The guy starts boasting about catching the hacker, and promises to teach him a lesson live on stream. But Woo Hyun simply draws his blades, completely ignoring the childish taunts. The announcer notes his composure, pointing out he's following instructions to ignore all the trash talk. Her partner looks a little uncomfortable, but announces that the fight is about to begin. The round starts. The enemy is instantly engulfed in a brilliant golden energy, screaming in agony as he powers up. He then unleashes a gigantic energy beam, blasting Woo Hyun across the map with the explosion. He screams in pure hatred as he charges forward, hell-bent on finishing our protagonist off for good. But Woo Hyun just watches him come, even considering letting the guy show off a little. Then he realizes it's just a complete waste of time, and ends him with a single, effortless strike. The system declares his victory, leaving the opponent bleeding and screaming curses. The countdown for round 2 begins, setting the stage for the next clash. Realizing he's about to get clapped again, the guy decides it's time to unleash his secret weapon. The round kicks off, and he emerges with a totally different, more menacing aura of power. Woo Hyun can feel the shift in the atmosphere as his own sword begins to thrum, glowing with a newfound, responsive energy. A devastating blow slammed him into the ground, the impact shaking the arena. But Woo Hyun's focus is laser sharp, analyzing his enemy's new attack patterns. They're faster, way more lethal. The dude just lets out a psychotic laugh, sneering as he asks if the hacker finally got his little message. He roars that round 1 was just him taking it easy. But now, the kid gloves are coming off. That single word hacker triggers a memory, flashing through Woo Hyun's mind. It's a flashback, the commentator's voice echoing in his head, telling him to absolutely demolish anyone who dared to call him that. Remembering that advice, a dangerous glint sparks in Woo Hyun's eyes. Okay, no more holding back. A sinister aura explodes from Woo Hyun's body, and his opponent feels a sudden chill as the entire vibe of the arena shifts. But he shoves the fear down, trying to convince himself he's still in control. He lunges forward, screaming at Woo Hyun to quit with the tough guy act. Woo Hyun's response is a single, earth-shattering stomp. A shockwave erupts from his foot, pulverizing the stone beneath him. In a flash of movement, He sidesteps the attack and carves a clean, precise slash across his opponent's back. The player gasps, a jolt of searing pain shooting through him as the brutal strike connects. Enraged, he spins around, a curse on his lips, but our protagonist is already coiled, ready for the next strike. He effortlessly parries the enemy's wild swing with his blade, the force of the block making the guy howl in agony. The player's face twists in pure disbelief, completely unable to process the insane power behind that simple counter. Before he can even process it, Woo-hyun unleashes another strike that sends him flying across the arena. The guy starts screaming, not from pain, but from the absolute rage and humiliation of being so utterly dominated. The round's objective lies forgotten on the ground as his opponent collapses, with zero fight left in him. Back in the studio, the casters are watching the beatdown unfold, and the female commentator is completely speechless. Seong-jool calmly explains that Woo-hyun is intentionally dragging this out, just like Neon told him to. The commentator gets flustered, stammering that she told him to crush the guy, not torture him like this. Utterly broken, the player just mutters, "What the hell are you?" Woo-hyun, looking almost confused himself, simply says he's just returning the favor, showing the enemy his own defeated reflection in the gleaming steel of his sword. Round 2 concludes, and the system declares an overwhelming victory for our protagonist. After that brutal display, he went on an absolute tear, racking up victory after victory until he blew past the 30-win mark. In the studio, the caster announces that he's already hit gold rank, leaving the entire panel stunned. Right then, a fan in the chat asks him to drop his build. She's hesitant at first, but finally works up the courage to send the message. To everyone's absolute shock, Woo-hyun instantly agrees. Thrilled by the reply, the girl spams the chat with a cute sticker to celebrate. She then hypes up the entire stream, announcing that the rookie is about to reveal his secret build. With that massive news bomb dropped, they wrap up the broadcast and thank everyone for tuning in. Even after the stream ends, the female commentator is still reeling from that insane 30-win streak. Her partner wonders aloud if he's got what it takes to shatter the all-time record of 76 wins. Absolutely buzzing, she declares that she's officially on the Woo-hyun hype train and is rooting for him to break that record. Seong-chul gives a grim warning though. The current record holder is notoriously competitive and is probably watching his every move. And somewhere, in a darkened room, a hand is flying across a mouse, getting ready to log in. On the game's official forums, the only thing anyone could talk about was the rookie's insane 30-win streak. We see a post showing the sniper who accused Woo-hyun of hacking got his own account banned instead. Scrolling through the comments, he spots people saying that not even the legendary pro player, Battler, could take him down. A smirk plays on Battler's lips. He finds this whole situation very, very interesting. He's intrigued. A few days pass, and the second stream kicks off in a sun-drenched forest. Woo-hyun's thoughts drift to Anonymous Spectator 62, the one viewer who was a no-show last time, and he can't help but wonder why. His thoughts are interrupted when Agent Lee Yoo-jin suddenly appears, calling his name and waving with a bright smile from a distance. The chat immediately explodes, going crazy over the fan-favorite NPC's appearance and praising her design. She asks if he's feeling the pressure for the upcoming mission, but he just coolly reassures her that it'll be a cakewalk. A second later, a mission screen materializes, showing off one of the unique perks for new players. He glances at it and asks what the objective is. Yoo-jin explains their goal is to neutralize some invading entities. They arrive at a derelict warehouse, and she explains it's another mess left behind by the megacorporations. She brushes off the jab about her dodging easy gigs, so the dude just switches gears, asking, "Who's the newbie?" He starts pitching Woo-hyun on ditching the agency for some corporate suit job, and that's when Eugene just snaps. She lays down the law, warning him not to even think about crossing that line. Totally caught off guard, Hyungju throws his hands up like, all right, the mission's all yours." He shoots them a smug grin before leaving, sarcastically wishing them luck. The second he's gone, Woo-hyun turns to her, like, who even was that guy? And she drops a bomb. He was the very first rookie she ever took under her wing. Eugene explains how he sold out for a corporation, and then started trashing the agency's name all over the place. Cut to the studio, and the commentators are absolutely buzzing because this is the first time anyone's seeing this piece of the lore. His partner totally agrees, pointing out how the game always just glossed over this stuff with zero detail. So they figure it out. The AI is actively building out the world, all because of the choices Woo-hyun is making. Back at the portal, Eugene shakes off the heavy conversation and motions for him to head inside. Outside, her old squad watches the pair disappear into the glowing, mysterious gateway. One of them cracks a wicked smile, muttering that it's finally time to set their plan in motion. 20 minutes later, the scene cuts to a shadowy, twisted forest. Inside the reverse world, Woo-hyun's eyes are blazing as he casually wipes a fresh trickle of blood from his cheek. The fight is over. The camera pulls back to reveal a horrifying sight. Eugene is down, completely wrecked and losing a ton of blood. Lying next to her, stained crimson, is the very same bullet she'd given him earlier. Then, the scene flashes back, showing them both stepping out of the shimmering blue portal. Eugene tells him this is it, the entrance to the reverse world. As they move forward, Woo Hyun gets a crazy sense of déjà vu. This place looks exactly like a world he's been to before. But then, all of a sudden, the whole dimension starts to glitch and tremble violently. He immediately knows something is deeply wrong. This isn't normal. Right then, Eugene screams his name as a blinding light erupts behind her. She desperately tries to yell a warning, but it's useless. The screen cuts to black. Now, they're stranded in a pitch-dark, eerily silent forest. Woo Hyun looks around, and the chilling realization hits him. He's been separated from Eugene. He reasons that Gateway's collapsing is a known risk and braces himself for a fight. On cue, a disgusting horde of monstrous spiders crawls out from the shadows, boxing him in completely. His first thought, take out the trash. Then, he'll find Eugene. He pops a skill, and his hand ignites with crackling golden energy. He unleashes his wide-range thunder skill, blasting every single creature with a massive lightning strike. But right in the middle of the chaos, one of the spiders morphs into some kind of twisted, shadowy abomination. Elsewhere, Eugene is locked in a desperate battle of her own, but the shadow monsters just keep coming. It's a never-ending swarm. She realizes this forest is way too big, it feels more like a mid-level zone. Taking a ragged breath, her gut screams that this is a setup. A wave of panic for Woo Hyun washes over her. That's when her old apprentice materializes right behind her. A split second later, her instincts scream danger, and she whirls around, her face a mask of pure shock. Young Cheol blasts her with a fire attack, a direct hit straight to her gut. The force of the explosion sends her flying backward, as the traitor lets out this unhinged, psycho laugh. Crumpled on the ground, she chokes out a "why," but all he says is that he's on a secret mission. He even has the nerve to tell her not to take it personally, claiming he was just following orders. Eugene desperately clutches the gaping wound in her side, realizing the gash is way deeper than she first thought. She knows she has to escape, and fast. Time to go all out. Without a second thought, she unleashes a vicious counterattack on one of the goons closing in on her, but the soldier throws up a massive guardian stone, barely blocking her strike. Her attack completely shatters the barrier, sending the guy hurtling through the air. Eugene doesn't waste a single moment, lunging forward and brutally stomping on the soldier's chest, pinning him to the dirt. Young Chul is pissed, screaming at the other soldiers to get after her. Now, she seizes the opportunity, making a desperate break for it with the goons hot on her tail. But in the middle of her escape, Eugene suddenly skids to a halt, gathering an insane amount of energy in her hands. She's about to drop a nuke, ready to unload everything she's got on them at once. In one fluid, acrobatic motion, she slams that raw power straight into the earth, causing the ground to erupt in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave hits the soldiers dead on, sending their bodies flying like ragdolls. Using the chaos as cover, Eugene dives into a nearby burrow. The soldier who was supposed to be watching her starts to totally freak out, immediately blaming his buddy, screaming that it's his fault they lost her. Their leader just barks at them to fan out and sweep the area to find her. Far away, Eugene's hand pushes through a pile of leaves, revealing she gave them the slip. She thinks to herself that if it wasn't for that burrow, she'd be dead for sure. Meanwhile, Woo Hyun has already wiped the floor with every last one of the bug monsters. He examines the tracks on the ground, positive he can feel Eugene's energy lingering here. His face hardens. He knows without a doubt that she's in some serious trouble. Out of nowhere, the blue mission sphere flares to life, its light pulsing to reveal a new path, as Eugene's voice suddenly blasts from it, a haunting echo that cuts through the dense forest. He sprints toward the sound, spotting a brilliant blue light crashing down from the sky, somewhere deep within the trees. As he bursts into the clearing, he discovers a soldier locked in a death struggle with a colossal centipede. But then the soldier does something insane. He carves into his own arm with a dagger, priming a skill. In a flash, he transforms and vaults clean over the monster, zeroing in on a different target entirely. The centipede is obliterated by the aftershock, a chilling display of the ungodly power the soldier just unleashed. Woo Hyun finally locates Eugene, rushing to her side. "Are you all right?" he asks, but she can barely manage a whisper. He sees the gash on her arm, knowing that no mere bug could ever inflict that kind of damage. Woo Hyun assesses the grim scene, realizing the wound was carved by a special skill. In that moment, the horrifying truth clicks. This was all the handiwork of the traitor, Choi Hyung-chol. The mission sphere then confirms it, revealing that the enemy must have piggybacked on a portal anomaly. Back in the broadcast booth, the female commentator is absolutely reeling from the chaos unfolding on screen. Her partner is baffled, pointing out how bizarre this is, since Hyung Chol usually waits until much later to strike. They cook up a theory that the game's adaptive AI is pulling the strings, crafting a secret, unscripted storyline. The camera cuts to Eugene hiding, her heart hammering in her chest, knowing she barely escaped and another attack is imminent. She urges Woo Hyun to run, but he firmly tells her to stay put and let him handle it. She screams back, "No, you don't understand. Hyung Chol is a veteran. You can't take him on alone." Woo Hyun just shoots her a look of pure, unwavering confidence, making it clear he's already got a game plan. Meanwhile, down by the river, the trader's lackeys are scouring the area, desperate to find her. The leader commands them to sweep the valley, announcing he's going downstream to hunt the main target himself. All at once, the trader feels a chilling presence, his eyes snapping wide with alarm. In the next instant, a torrent of fire erupts from the shadows, forcing him to dive out of the way at the last possible second. The camera reveals a kid who looks absolutely terrified, desperately pleading with him. "Wait, just give me a second." Young Chul rolls up, asking if he's the new guy, and for a second, the kid looks totally relieved. But Woo Hyun, hidden behind a mask, just plays dumb. He spins this whole sob story about how they got split up at the portal. The two-faced snake then pulls him into a fake hug, acting all friendly and promising to fill him in on what went down. With a sick grin, he tells the rookie he'll see her in a bit. All he needs is a little rest, but the whole thing is a setup. And that's when Woo Hyun makes his move, grabbing him and laying the whole twisted plan bare, leaving the traitor completely shook. Choi Hyung Chul hits the deck. He's on the ground, spitting up blood, viciously cursing out his opponent. His crew scrambles over, desperately asking him what just happened. One agent is checking him over when, out of nowhere, a sinister figure materializes from the shadows of the trees. Instantly, one of them barks out that he's going after the guy, while the other focuses on first aid. He tears off after the suspect, plunging deep into the forest, but the figure just melts into the darkness and is gone. The agent figures the runner couldn't have gotten far and presses on with the search, but then, from out of the blue, something sharp whistles past his head, catching him totally off guard. In less than a blink, the white-haired man is standing right in his face, and his hand snaps around the agent's throat. Back at the clearing, the other agent is fighting to stop his partner from bleeding out, trying to keep him from kicking the bucket. Suddenly, an eerie glow from the forest snags his attention. He has zero time to react before a sword bursts clean through his chest, snuffing out his life in a brutal instant. His final, terrifying vision is of the unfolding nightmare. His last thought is that this dude is a complete psycho. The killer steps fully into view, his eyes cold and utterly empty. He strolls up to the last agent standing and casually asks where his buddy ran off to. The man just gives him a death stare. With a white-knuckle grip on his sword, the final agent roars and charges, screaming that he'll get revenge for his fallen comrades. But his focus shatters when he sees his other colleague get ambushed by jagged stone spikes erupting from the very ground he stands on. Fueled by pure rage at the sight, the agent launches himself into the air, yelling that he's going to kill whoever is responsible. Kim Young-jin, though, obliterates the stone spikes with a casual spear of energy. Not backing down, the helmeted agent slams his hand on the ground, growling that this fight is far from over. He channels his power, the earth beneath him cracking and groaning as it prepares to unleash a massive assault. From his power, a colossal wave of earth surges forward to pulverize his enemy, but Kim Young-jin doesn't even flinch. His eyes flare with a golden light as he throws up a single hand, stopping the tidal wave of rock dead in its tracks and causing it to explode on contact. The gigantic attack is completely shut down by the young man's ridiculous power level. Within seconds, the entire wave has crumbled into dust, putting his insane strength on full display. The agent is just floored, thinking this guy isn't human, he's a monster. Kim Young-jin then summons a massive pillar of stone, molding it with his magic. He draws his own blade, ready to strike his new creation, and with one fluid motion, forges it into a new weapon. A single slash sends the sharpened tip of the rock flying like a missile. Even with his arm bleeding, Kim Young-jin's focus is absolute. The agent is caught right in the path of the spike trap. He screams in raw panic, telling him to stay back. The white-haired warrior then sheathes his sword, signaling the fight is done. The deadly rock projectiles he forged converge on the helpless target with terrifying speed. In a flash, the spikes slam together, skewering the agent and finishing him for good. With the last enemy down, he kneels in victory, flanked by his two blades. The agent can barely get a word out as blood pools inside his helmet. The battle is over, and the victor lets out a sigh of relief. As he wipes the blood from his cheek, the scene cuts to a streamer whose jaw is on the floor from what she just witnessed. She's telling her stream partner about the insane 3-on-1 fight she just saw. Back in the arena, our guy glances at his own wound and realizes his level is still way too low. He decides to loot the area, stepping over the bodies of his fallen foes. On the trader's phone, he discovers a shady text about some kind of secret mission. He slings the body over his shoulder, announcing that this whole investigation is now agency business. But he also finds a seriously powerful dagger, an item that magically returns to his hand. He also scores the Victor's bracelet, which amps up his skill power, and to top it off, the Hermit's necklace, a perfect item for stashing or summoning gear whenever he wants. He grips the dagger, thinking about how easy it is in this world to see an item's stats. With that, he sheathes his swords. The immediate threat is gone, and now, it's time to book it. His priority is to clear the zone as soon as possible, before Eugene's injuries get any worse. And speaking of Eugene, the agent is just staring up at the sky, looking totally over this whole situation. But that's when a gargantuan Emperor Scorpion, the boss of this stage, materializes right in front of her. She curses her terrible luck, but then thinks, hey, at least the rookie isn't here to get himself killed. All of a sudden, a blast of dark energy comes rocketing toward the injured agent. She realizes she's going to have to deal with this thing on her own, and channels a surge of power into her hand. With it, Eugene throws up a crackling barrier of golden lightning to block the incoming attack, but the monster's claw plows right through it like it's nothing, leaving her in total disbelief. The scorpion rears back to finish her off, when a shimmering purple shield pops up, protecting her at the very last second. Out of thin air, Woo Hyun appears on top of the downed monster, asking if she's okay. Her face flushes bright red, leaving her totally speechless as the livestream chat absolutely explodes. Then, the world around them begins to fracture, splintering apart like a shattered mirror. It's a dead giveaway that the portal is collapsing. Woo Hyun congratulates her on the W and says he's gonna carry her, so they can bolt out of there. He hoists her onto his back as the commentators scream that they have to escape, before they get sealed in for good. He yells at her to hold on tight, which makes Agent Eugene visibly flustered by the whole scene. The pair makes a desperate sprint toward the shrinking portal, while the reality behind them crumbles into nothingness. The second they burst through, a system notification announces the clear was a success, and he skyrockets several levels in an instant. Cut to the monolithic headquarters of the management agency. Inside, leader Kim Chol demands to know if it's true that Eugene was jumped and injured by an enemy squad. Woo Hyun confirms it, which sends the leader into a fury, snarling that they've officially crossed the line. The leader is in total disbelief when Woo Hyun says he eliminated all of them, asking how he could have possibly pulled that off solo. A flashback hits him hard, standing alone, completely surrounded by the corpses of the soldiers who ambushed him. As proof, Woo Hyun slaps one of their burner phones onto the desk, showing him the kill order right there in the message logs. Satisfied, the leader declares this will make the investigation a slam dunk and tells the kid to get some rest. But as Woo Hyun turns to leave, Kim Cheol calls out his name one last time. He offers a piece of advice that sounds a hell of a lot like a warning, mentioning that another opportunity is bound to come up. Until that day comes, he tells the young man to lay low, asking if he catches his drift. Woo Hyun confirms that he understands completely, his expression showing he knows exactly what needs to be done. A system alert chimes in that the mission is complete, and he can now select his second element. The livestream casters are losing their minds, celebrating the mission's conclusion, which was way more explosive than anyone anticipated. But then, a notification pops on the streamer's screen, and her eyes go wide. An anonymous whale just dropped an insane amount of money, and attached a special mission to the donation. Woo Hyun gets the alert, just as the streamer is freaking out over the massive tip. She immediately DMs him a screenshot, sparking his curiosity about this special mission. He realizes it's the same viewer who teased it earlier, and claimed they'd only dropped the details when the stream ended. Woo Hyun thanks her for the heads up, and tells her to keep the broadcast going for now. Her co-caster, Song Chul, notices Neon is completely zoned out and asks her if something's wrong. She sees the donation was sent privately, just for her, but shoves it aside to focus. To play it off, she cranks the energy to 11, shouting that the stream is popping off, and they are jumping straight into PvP. They both remember that in the last PvP event, some mysterious female player was absolutely dominating the win rankings. It's explained that today's event is combat mode, a 5v5 match with 4 game types, but the chat immediately starts complaining, demanding duels instead of a team-based game. Neon just smirks confidently, telling them they'll change their tune once they see the action. The queue pops for an escort mission, and the attacking team gets ready to roll out. The commentator confirms, announcing the first match of the day will officially be an escort mission. He explains that the offensive team has to push the payload to the objective, while the defense tries to shut them down. A map flashes on screen, detailing the route, and the streamer is hyped to see this so-called goddess perform. The system announces the beginning of round 1, and the payload lurches forward. The attackers move with the objective, but Woo Hyun hangs back, observing the field. Suddenly, he breaks off from his team, taking a route that leads far away from the objective. The move completely confuses the casters, who wonder why he's peeling away right at the start of the game. But Woo Hyun's expression is pure ice, proving this is all part of a calculated strategy. The streamer, Neon, figures it out instantly, pointing out he's going for a massive rear attack. Her partner agrees, explaining it's a high-risk play that takes an incredible amount of skill, since it's almost impossible to stop. 5 players by yourself. He sprints down a narrow alley, then leaps and smashes through a window, using a shortcut to flank the enemy team. The minimap shows his icon moving at incredible speed as he closes in on the enemy's backline. The defenders look up, startled by a dark silhouette soaring over their heads. Still airborne, Woo Hyun whips out a dagger, preparing to take down his first target. With a clean throw, he launches the blade directly at one of the players. The dagger lands true, resulting in an instant kill, and sending the other defenders into a panic. One of them screams into his comms that they're getting ambushed from behind. Before they even have a chance to react, he eliminates 2 more opponents with a series of swift, brutal strikes. His own teammates are completely clueless, wondering what all the commotion is about in the backline. An enemy player decides to challenge him one-on-one to buy his team some time. But the kill feed just keeps lighting up with his name, showing that Woo Hyun is clearing the entire map in the blink of an eye. Round 1 concludes with a victory for the attackers. The commentators are floored. They expected a competitive match, but it was a completely one-sided massacre. Seong Chol remarks that he seems to be moving way faster than usual, like he has somewhere urgent to be. In annihilation mode, it's the exact same story. Woo Hyun runs right through the enemy team. He defeats all 5 of them by himself, leaving the arena littered with a pile of fallen bodies. The scene smashes open with an explosion that rips a hole in the castle wall, as defenders shriek in utter terror. They're screaming at their comrades to intercept the invader, no matter the cost. But it's too late. Woo Hyun is already inside, weaving through a storm of fireballs like it's nothing. He becomes a whirlwind of steel, cutting down multiple opponents at once, a testament to his overwhelming power. His face streaked with crimson, the chilling intensity in his eyes screams that nothing and no one will stand in his way. And then, the camera focuses on the tattered enemy flag, the ultimate symbol of their failure. Surrounded by the wreckage of his foes, Woo Hyun snatches the flag, single-handedly sealing the win. In that exact moment, the anonymous benefactor drops another huge donation, revealing a special mission. The streamer, Neon, absolutely loses her mind over the cash infusion, and tries to tell Woo Hyun about the new message, but he's completely unfazed by her hype and just tells her to send him a screenshot of the mission details. He scans the directive and instantly gets it. The grind isn't over yet. As the 2 of them are messaging back and forth in the chat, Woo Hyun is already calculating his next move. For the time being, he figures he'll just play along with this mysterious sponsor's agenda. The scene then jumps forward a few days, to a high-tech agency combat training ground. Out of the blue, Woo Hyun gets a ping from Yoo-jin, who claims she's found him a replacement mentor. The commentators are buzzing, speculating on who this new mentor could possibly be. Her partner guesses that for a guy as famous as Woo Hyun, it has to be some kind of top-tier agent. When he shows up, he finds Lee Yoo-jin waiting for him, her hand wrapped in bandages. He checks in on her, asking if she's okay, and she confirms that someone else will be taking over his training for now. Suddenly, she gestures across the hall, announcing that the person he's here to see has finally shown up. Then, the distinct sound of footsteps echoes down the corridor, growing closer. A woman with vibrant purple hair emerges, introducing herself as his new mentor, Kim Hannah. Woo Hyun gives his name, but his mind is racing, because he recognizes that name instantly. It clicks, she's the agency's number 2, an absolute monster he'd faced in his past life. Right then, Yoo-jin announces she's bouncing and playfully pinches Hannah's cheek, which clearly pisses her off. Yoo-jin bolts, leaving Woo Hyun with the new mentor, who's yelling for her to get back there. And just like that, the 2 are left standing in the middle of the massive training field, steeped in an awkward silence. She finally breaks it, asking what kind of blade he favors, to which he casually replies that he's proficient with both. Hannah looks genuinely intrigued by that answer, trying to size up his real capabilities. Not wasting another second, she challenges him to a quick spar to put his skills to the test. Watching this unfold, the stream's commentator is completely bugging out. His partner wants to know what's got him so rattled, but he's just thinking to himself that this entire plot development feels super off. She, on the other hand, doesn't see anything weird about it and just figures it's what you'd expect when 2 master sword wielders meet. Down on the floor, the 2 grab training swords and face off, both coiled and ready to strike. The commentator reluctantly agrees, but you can tell something is still eating at him. He explains that this kind of thing only happens because Woo Hyun is, no cap, the main character of this game. The feed cuts to the streamer, who looks absolutely horrified by what's about to go down. On her screen, Woo Hyun reflects that, even with a super advanced AI, his storyline is unfolding differently than any other player's. The game is designed so that a player's choices can send the story down wildly different branches. Because of this, the whole experience is starting to feel less like a game and more like a second reality itself. Back in the arena, Hannah is locked onto him with a dead serious expression, ready to begin the real battle. Hannah proposes a duel using only sword skills, but Woo Hyun shuts that down, saying it's impossible. He clarifies that his strength enhancement is a passive skill that's always on, and she agrees to activate hers as well to even the odds. With a confident smirk, Hannah braces herself as the intense fight is about to kick off. Woo Hyun cracks a slight smile of his own, showing he's more than ready for whatever she can throw at him. And on the signal, the showdown between the two finally, truly begins. In a flash, she lunges forward with a blindingly fast strike, which Woo Hyun manages to parry. She seamlessly flows into a powerful vertical slash, forcing our hero to backpedal, but he drops low, ducking under the blade. As it whistles just inches past his head, the sheer force of the missed blow sends him stumbling, forcing him down to one knee on the arena floor. Without hesitating for a nanosecond, Hannah stomps on the ground, using the impact to create an opening. A cloud of dust erupts, and she uses the momentary smokescreen to launch her next assault. The two warriors leap into the sky, their blades clashing again in a spectacular aerial duel. The commentator is losing his mind, screaming that, as expected, Kim Hannah is an absolute beast, and the streamer guesses her character build must be a wind god type, given her insane agility. The mid-air clash is savage, with both fighters demonstrating a ridiculous level of power. The commentator corrects her, explaining that the wind god build was actually created and inspired by Kim Hannah herself. But he also gives props to Woo Hyun, who is somehow managing to keep up with her god-tier speed. Their swords lock in a shower of sparks as they glare at each other, trapped in a dead-even test of power and technique. Hannah is low-key shocked that this kid is perfectly matching all of her moves. She realizes it's not just his speed that's off the charts, he's expertly exploiting every tiny opening she gives him. Flashing a wicked grin, she warns him that she's about to turn things up a notch. In an instant, a terrifying aura explodes from her body, and her sword begins to glow with deadly energy, priming a fatal blow. She then dives from above, unleashing its full, devastating power. She swings for the kill, aiming straight for our hero's head, but he whips out of the way at the last second as her sword obliterates the ground beneath him. Through the settling dust, she turns to him, a slight smirk on her face, admitting she knew he'd be sharp enough to dodge through the chaos. They both step back, the air crackling with the raw energy of their clash. Hannah actually congratulates him, confessing he's way more formidable than she gave him credit for. She has to know who his master was, but he just shrugs, claiming he's entirely self-taught. With the sparring match over, she gestures for him to follow her to a secret location. When they arrive, his jaw drops. Before them is an entire wall bristling with swords and axes, a true arsenal. A man steps from the shadows, explaining that this is the official armory of the Interdimensional Management Agency, and introduces himself as Kim Hyun Woo. He mentions that he got word Woo Hyun was in the market for a new weapon. Our hero confirms it, admitting his current gear lacks any special combat perks. On that note, Hyun Woo grants him full clearance to choose any weapon he desires before taking his leave. Hannah tells him to take all the time he needs. She watches him intently as Woo Hyun scans the massive collection, but his initial thought is a little bit of disappointment. He feels like there are fewer top-tier weapons than he expected. Then, his eyes lock onto a wicked-looking red spear that has a lifesteal ability, draining an enemy's blood to mend the user's wounds. But just as he reaches for the spear, a glint from the back of the chamber snags his attention. His gaze is pulled toward a dark, menacing greatsword, leaning silently against the wall. He's stunned. It's the Soul Eater, a mythical sword famed for its power to devour the very souls of its fallen enemies. He hefts the blade, wondering how a notorious black market item could possibly be sitting in an official government armory. Suddenly, a memory surges through him. It's a vision revealing this was his treasured weapon in his former life. Woo Hyun's decision is made instantly. He informs Hannah he's claiming the two-handed sword. He asks her to initiate the ownership transfer, unable to look away from the weapon's dark beauty. The feed then cuts back to the live streamer, who is having an absolute meltdown over his pick. She's freaking out because, at this game stage, only 2 weapon choices should have ever been available. The commentator beside her quickly points out that this isn't the first time he's managed to acquire an unbelievably rare piece of gear. He reminds her about the Hermit's Necklace, another item that shouldn't have dropped until much later. He lays out how the game operates on a clear system. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. He theorizes that Woo Hyun deliberately took on impossible challenges, specifically to obtain these broken items. The guy has flawlessly cleared every obstacle, from escaping the lab to his intense duel with Hannah. The streamer has to agree, realizing The Soul Eater must be the ultimate reward for his perfect performance. Her partner, however, cautions that it's still just a hypothesis. For now, they can only keep watching. Back inside the armory, the transfer is authorized, and the sword now officially belongs to him. Hannah suggests they immediately head out on a mission so he can get a feel for his new toy. The scene then transitions, dropping us on a snow-battered mountain peak. The two finally stand before a shimmering teleportation portal, taking a final, deep breath before they plunge in. She remarks that the brutal climb to get here was a pretty good warm-up. A guard posted nearby warns them the portal is just ahead, but the zone on the other side is incredibly hostile. He explains the area is swarming with wolves who will undoubtedly catch their scent any second. Woo Hyun just smirks at the thought of the beasts, figuring this will save him the trouble of tracking them down. Hearing his confidence, Hannah decides she'll just hang back and spectate, promising to jump in only if things go completely sideways. He then materializes the Soul Eater from his inventory. The massive sword erupts in a menacing purple aura. A moment later, a terrifying howl slices through the silent forest, announcing that company has arrived. Dozens of paw prints stampede through the deep snow, closing in on the two hunters with frightening speed. Woo Hyun's eyes glow with power as he senses the incoming horde. "They're here," he states calmly. Instantly, a pack of hulking wolves bursts from the tree line, encircling the pair. They're poised to tear them apart. Without a single wasted motion, he explodes upward, coiling in mid-air to unleash a devastating opening attack. Our protagonist isn't holding anything back, plummeting downwards with his blade raised. With one seamless rotation, he blasts out a crescent wave of pure power that completely annihilates every wolf in sight. The system immediately alerts him that the Soul Eater's cutting power has been significantly amplified. The commentators are speechless, watching him wield the colossal blade as if it weighed nothing. The hero grips his new weapon, feeling a familiar power coursing through it, unlike anything he's used recently. Hannah is floored by the display, instantly recognizing the technique he just executed. She's completely stunned, stammering as she asks if that was the legendary Celestial Moonslash. The warrior has just erased one wolf pack, but another is already launching an attack. In the broadcast room, a commentator is totally baffled, unable to process the situation. Out of nowhere, a pack of crackling electric wolves materializes, trapping the player from all sides. A streamer shrieks that these elite monsters have spawned way too early in the game. Wasting no time, the beasts coordinate their assault, launching themselves at him all at once. But the warrior's reflexes are on another level. He becomes a whirlwind of motion, his blade a blur of dark energy. The camera cuts back to the commentators, who are trying to figure out where in the world he learned these moves. The streamer suddenly has a spark of realization, wondering aloud if it could be the legendary Colosseum fighting style. Back in the action, he carves through one of the wolves with a brutally efficient strike. At that exact moment, a donation message flashes on screen, confirming her wild theory and mentioning the Colosseum's brutal training. He plants his feet, using the leverage to launch himself into the heart of the pack. With one final, powerful aerial slash, he descends like a meteor, eradicating the remaining monsters. His blade splits the leader's skull, a gruesome end to the battle. From the sidelines, Agent Kim Hana just smirks, totally unfazed. A system notification pops up, his weapon's cutting power just leveled up from that kill. But then, his eye flares with a golden light, sensing an insane power level nearby. Instantly, he drops into a defensive stance, knowing something massive is about to crash the party. And right on cue, the head of a colossal wolf tears through the clouds, its jaws gaping wide for a strike. It's the damn boss monster, the Silver Wolf, barreling towards him with world-ending force. The streamer is absolutely losing it, screaming about how this boss is notorious for shredding newbies. The impact is so brutal, it sends him skidding backward through the dense forest. The streamer shouts that he somehow blocked the hit, but he's getting completely overpowered by the beast's raw strength. He's using everything he has, his body, his blade, just to keep the creature's massive jaws from snapping shut. With a guttural roar, he shoves the beast's maw away. He finally breaks free, vaulting back to create distance for a counter. In one fluid spin, he channels immense energy into his blade for a final, decisive strike. His knuckles turn white as he grips the hilt, realizing this thing is on a whole different level from the trash mobs. But a cocky grin spreads across his face. He's basically saying, "Is that all you got?" Then, in a blinding flash, he unleashes a wave of energy that cleaves the giant wolf clean in two. His sword absorbs the boss's soul, its cutting power surging once again. Just then, another agent walks up to him, calling him the agency's star rookie. She admits she was seconds away from jumping in because that boss was way tougher than the mission briefing suggested. Meanwhile, on the stream, the commentator is freaking out, yelling that the difficulty was supposed to be way lower. She starts breaking down the situation, and figures the dungeon's rank was at least a B. Back on the ground, Agent Hana is spelling things out for Baek Woo-yoon. The streamer agrees, saying the game's difficulty scaling is acting super weird. She theorizes that the player's own actions might be messing with the mission parameters. But even with the boss down, the exit portal still hasn't opened a major red flag. The agent tells him they need to find out why, so the two press deeper into the woods. All of a sudden, a rustle from the bushes makes them freeze. Peering through the leaves, they discover a massive nest, and right in the center is a giant, glowing egg. And just as they spot it, the shell begins to crack, putting both agents on high alert. She warns him to stay ready. The egg explodes in a brilliant flash of light. But what emerges leaves them totally stunned. A tiny, adorable puppy tumbles out, yapping happily. The two of them are just completely floored as the little guy zips around their feet. The agent points out how weird this is. As the seemingly harmless pup starts nuzzling against the warrior's leg, she suggests they bring the creature back to the lab, since this is obviously a one-of-a-kind situation. Woo-yoon nods in agreement and scoops up the puppy, which lets out a happy little arf. The world around them starts to destabilize. She yells that they have to bail, like, right now. The scene cuts to the agency's headquarters, where a case like this has never been seen before. Inside the lab, a doctor drops a bombshell. The creature isn't an otherworldly being. He guesses it must be a summon, but Hana shoots that down, saying they don't have that kind of tech. Their only conclusion? The puppy was born from the reverse world itself, not summoned by the agents. The doctor says they can't confiscate it anyway, since the little guy has already imprinted on Woo-yoon. And then, out of nowhere, a system window declares the lightning wolf is now his official pet, leaving Woo-yoon totally bewildered. A second later, an emergency maintenance notification blasts across everyone's screen, for every single player. Woo-yoon can only stare, dumbfounded, as both his sword and the puppy start pulsing with a strange red light. Back on the stream, the host is asking, what is going on with the game right now? Her co-commentators agree, a brand new pet system appearing right before a sudden update is way too suspicious. But then, a donation message pops up, celebrating the fact that he just unlocked the game's first ever pet, even before the official patch drops. The streamer's eyes go wide, wondering if this entire emergency update was triggered because of his new pet. With maintenance about to hit, she decides to wrap up the broadcast and signs off to her viewers. In another location, a hand clicks off a screen, just as our hero's face fades to black. The scene snaps to a sleek conference room at Planet Earth headquarters in the U.S. A woman leans forward, asking, so, Woo-yoon is the player who just stumbled upon an Easter egg that we didn't even know we programmed? The head of development, Sophia, looks absolutely livid about a stealth update that blindsided her entire team. One of her staff members speaks up, saying there's only one person who could pull off something this insane. And we get a name, Isaac, the team's former genius lead who vanished without a trace. Sophia is seething. This guy just hijacks the server and pushes whatever updates he feels like, whenever he feels like it. She then pivots, asking about the god, but her team reports they still can't get it online. We then see a glimpse of the AI, a system that went dark the moment Isaac mysteriously disappeared. Wasting no more time, Sophia orders them to scour the system for any other hidden update files. I don't care how deep you have to dig, she barks. Find them. And one last thing, she orders them to put Woo-yoon on a priority surveillance list. He's officially on their radar. Her eyes lock onto him, a fire of pure determination blazing within. She makes a silent vow. Isaac's twisted plan is going down. The scene fractures, pulling us into a digital reality. A hand constructed from raw code materializes from the digital ether. It pulses with an otherworldly glow before detonating in a shower of data and light. We cut to a cafe, where Woo-yoon is mid-conversation with a girl. Suddenly, a system alert flashes across his vision, warning him that he needs to secure a trustworthy ally. And fast. The girl is buzzing with excitement over some anonymous viewer, which sends Woo-yoon spiraling into deep thought. He's juggling two critical objectives. One is to eliminate a director. The other is to unlock a brand new system. To pull this off, he figures, this mystery viewer has to be connected to the system somehow. She suggests it might be an inside job, maybe a dev from the game company, but he just writes it off as a wild coincidence. She quickly pivots, dropping some hype news about the SSR Cup. This isn't just any tournament. It's the nation's most colossal PvP showdown, an event that recruits only the most legendary players. He questions why they'd want him as a coach, and she lays it out plain and simple. He's the center of the universe right now. She adds that this is his chance to flex his skills in a completely different arena. The idea gets his gears turning, so he asks if coaching means he'd have to train a disciple, and she confirms it. That's when the light bulb goes off. This is the perfect opportunity for his mission. He accepts the offer on the spot. The girl is absolutely stunned by his instant decision, but is already geeking out over the insane content this will create for the stream. She immediately whips out her phone to make it official. while his mind is locked on his need for a partner. Days later, a massive broadcast kicks off, with commentators welcoming a legion of fans. The female host then drops an absolute bombshell. The god of mechanics will be coaching in the SSR Cup. The news sends the live chat into a complete meltdown, with everyone spamming the chat, wondering why on earth he isn't competing. The commentators then have to explain that being a god-tier player and being a god-tier teacher are two completely different ballgames. This spurs Wu Yan to focus on grinding his rank to establish some serious coaching cred. Turns out, he has 0 rank in survival mode, but he's ready for the placement matches. Then, out of nowhere, an absolutely insane mission appears, dangling a reward so legendary it leaves the hosts speechless. The challenge: rack up 40 kills without a single weapon. The female commentator is totally skeptical, calling it impossible. But the god of mechanics simply accepts the mission and queues for survival mode, ready to make them eat their words. The system finds him a solo ranked match instantly, and the challenge begins. His character spawns into the world, materializing inside a derelict military base. He quickly assesses the zone, noting he's on the fringes, far from the main chaos. Tapping into his senses, he detects 19 other souls nearby. With the mission objective burning in his mind, he knows time is a luxury he doesn't have if he's going to snag those 40 kills. Wasting not a single nanosecond, he launches himself from a high vantage point to begin the slaughter. He slams into the ground, unleashing a kinetic shockwave that rips through the area. He then explodes forward, vaporizing the first opponent who couldn't even register his presence. And without breaking stride, he delivers a bone-shattering blow to another player, showcasing his ludicrous power. The casters and the chat are left completely shell-shocked, struggling to comprehend the raw speed of the carnage. A kill feed begins to cascade up the screen, a non-stop waterfall of his name. Wu Yan becomes a phantom, a blur of pure destruction, as he hunts down every last target. In a flash, he's already stacked 18 kills, nearly halfway to his goal. After cleansing the outskirts, he sets his sights on the map's epicenter to find a fresh supply of victims. The match rages on until only 2 players remain, Wu Yan and one final challenger. Elsewhere, the last survivor waits patiently, their face concealed by a deep hood. Wu Yan finally finds him. He immediately lunges, unleashing a ferocious overhead strike, but the hooded figure dodges with inhuman speed, shocking both the chat and our hero. The mysterious player lands without a sound, instantly preparing a counterattack. He cracks his knuckles, signaling he's ready for a brawl. As Wu Yan faces this unknown threat, one of the commentators spots something eerily familiar in his fighting style. It dawns on them. This player is also rocking a pure strength build, just like the god of mechanics. The female commentator points out that this mystery player has already amassed a crazy 15 kills. Meanwhile, Wu Yan is sitting at 39, just 1 kill away from victory. The final battle ignites. He effortlessly sidesteps a lightning-fast strike from his opponent. He instantly counters, slamming a devastating punch into the hooded figure. The impact forces the mysterious player to double over, gasping from the sheer force. He scrambles to recover, but Wu Yan moves like a ghost, giving him no openings at all. They begin to trade blows, their fists colliding with enough force to shake the earth. The opponent is driven back, and Wu Yan prepares to unleash his full power. The hooded player grits his teeth, the immense pressure of the fight mounting. The casters are losing their minds, screaming that this is straight out of a martial arts movie. Wu Yan admits his opponent's form is impressive, but it's not going to be enough to secure the win. The enemy attempts a risky aerial assault, but our hero evades it perfectly. He counters with a palm strike directly to the man's chest, shattering his guard. The victor has been decided, he thinks. It's time to end this. And in a final, devastating rush, he storms forward to deliver the last, crushing blow of the match. Annihilated. This build's not my usual style, the mysterious player admits with a smirk, but I gotta say, it was a blast. Next time, though, it's for real. Wu Hyun's eyes narrow at the chilling promise, just as the enemy's form flickers and vanishes into thin air. Then, a massive system notification explodes across his vision. Game cleared. Rank 1. Kills 40. In the broadcast booth, the commentators are absolutely losing their minds. He actually did it. He cleared the impossible mission. And right on cue, a massive donation from Dus floods the screen, dropping the colossal reward that was promised. Totally hyped, the female commentator yells, "You gotta ride this wave, keep that momentum going, and climb the ladder." And that's exactly how he blazed through 96 consecutive wins, shattering his way into the master rank. The scene cuts. We see a girl scrolling through the latest game news on her phone, when her eyes lock onto a new post, an open audition to become a disciple of the god of mechanics. The streamer, young Ariam, turns to her brother, young Duwoon. "Yo, shouldn't we apply for this?" "Way ahead of you," he replies with a smug look. "Already sent mine in. Oldest gets first dibs." She groans. No fair, you're always too fast. Turns out, the two of them are twins. Meanwhile, at the Planet Earth corporate office, Sophia is poring over data, analyzing the current situation. She's scanning a detailed report covering player Woo Hyun's recent activities, when a particular name catches her eye: Deuce. The whole thing feels incredibly suspicious. A few days later, a massive stadium is buzzing with energy, completely decked out and ready for the broadcast to begin. For his grand entrance, Woo Hyun shows off his brand new pet, an impossibly cute, level 1 lightning wolf. Its skills are pretty standard, and a commentator remarks that it doesn't seem all that special. Over his earpiece, Neon informs him she's already locked in the finalists for his audition. Just then, another commentator shouts across the studio, "Hey, we're about to go live." She urges him to get ready, so Woo Hyun makes the call to send his new companion back home for now. The tiny pup lets out a sad little yip, its eyes begging not to go. He's momentarily stunned by the creature's cuteness overload, but he shakes it off. Stepping up to the terminal, he prepares to launch the main audition event. But suddenly, piercing emergency alarms blare through the stadium. His communicator vibrates violently. He snatches his phone and sees an urgent alert flashing on the screen. It's from the Dimensional Administration Agency. One after another, alerts start flooding in, reporting coordinated attacks in cities all across the nation. The commentators are in total shock as a full-scale invasion unfolds live on air. The system explains this is a reverse attack, a phenomenon where monsters from another dimension invade Earth. A brand new mission instantly appears for Woo Hyun. Is the dimensional war actually getting worse? He wonders. Out of nowhere, Agent Kim Hannah sprints towards him, beaming. "Hey there, rookie. I've already got a vehicle prepped for us," she says, barely catching her breath. "We need to move, fast." The scene transitions, and the two of them arrive at a national park. This is the site of one of the reported attacks. As they move in, they find nothing but goblin corpses scattered everywhere. They were too late. "Looks like other agents got here first and cleaned up," she observes. Hannah then suggests, "Let's split up. We can cover more ground that way." He gives a sharp nod. With the plan set, she gives a quick wave and sprints off in another direction to provide backup. Now alone, his eyes gleam with focus as he decides which area to investigate first. Elsewhere, a desperate voice screams, "Stay away from me!" A defenseless girl is being hunted by a pack of feral goblins, but suddenly, a chained weapon whistles through the air, hurtling toward the monsters. The blade smashes into a goblin's head, and the creature lets out a gut-wrenching scream from the brutal impact. Woo Hyun then yanks the chain, effortlessly dragging the creature through the air. He swings the goblin's body like a club to shield the terrified civilian, but in the chaos, another goblin leaps from the shadows. It lunges for a surprise attack, but with a single, brutal swing of his weapon, Woo Hyun wipes out every last one of the remaining goblins. With the area secured, he calmly identifies himself as an agent and points her to a safe exit path. The girl stammers her thanks and flees, leaving him alone in the forest clearing. He knows he still needs to hunt down the leader of this horde. He needs to find it before more monsters show up. And right on cue, a massive hobgoblin emerges from the trees behind him, swinging for a fatal blow. Woo Hyun reacts instantly, spinning around to block the strike with enough force to send the monster stumbling backward. Wasting no time, he launches his weapon straight at the boss to end the fight, but the hobgoblin skillfully parries the attack. This one is on a whole different level. Woo Hyun is shocked, but his attention is suddenly snagged by another mysterious silhouette, lurking behind the beast. Taking advantage of the distraction, the hobgoblin charges forward, forcing him to dodge and retreat from the relentless assault. The live stream chat is exploding with confusion, wondering why the god of mechanics is suddenly on the defensive. The commentators notice his eyes are locked elsewhere. He isn't even looking at his enemy. While blocking another strike, he calls out to the observer, "You're not just going to stand there and watch, are you?" He then explodes forward, charging directly at the monster. Playtime is officially over, but abruptly, the hobgoblin freezes, its finger pointing in terror at something behind Woo Hyun. In the next instant, the shocked beast is utterly obliterated by a giant fist. It came from above. Woo Hyun pivots, finally sensing the hidden presence he'd felt the entire time. He turns and finally faces the mysterious silhouette, something watching him from the deep forest shadows, its glare intense and menacing. He roars for the creature to reveal itself, and from the tree line, a dimensional invader emerges, a literal demon from another world. The commentators start to freak out, because it's almost unheard of for an invader to spawn this early. The creature just stares at Woo Hyun, sizing him up before the fight. He clocks that this is the first time an invader has ever just popped up with zero warning, but Woo Hyun is completely unfazed. He drops into a battle stance, basically saying, "Bring it." The two lock eyes, bracing for the chaos to come. Without a second's hesitation, Woo Hyun explodes forward, charging the new enemy. With every ounce of power he has, their first clash unleashes a devastating shockwave of raw energy. But the demon tanks the hit, flaring up with a golden aura and an even scarier level of power. Woo Hyun doesn't even flinch and hammers a heavy blow right across the purple monster's face. He then blitzes, moving so fast he creates a flurry of afterimages, surrounding the demon from every conceivable angle. The commentator shouts that this whole fight is giving him flashbacks to the finals of the last house survival tournament. With a dangerous glint in his eye, Woo Hyun realizes his gut feeling was spot on. As they trade brutal hits, he confirms it. The enemy is straight up copying his moves. His mind flashes back to that specialized robot built to hunt him down a while back. But this thing is on another level, firing off a massive energy blast. Woo Hyun is unimpressed, snatching the demon's arm with bone-crushing force. He scoffs that the imitation is clumsy, and pile-drives the invader into the ground with overwhelming strength. The impact is so insane it carves a crater into the earth, ending the confrontation instantly. With a bloodied fist, he stares down at the creature's obliterated corpse on the ground. He wonders who could be orchestrating this, recycling the exact same tactics from the lab. He immediately suspects the corporate alliance, or maybe even the invaders themselves. But then, something clicks, and he starts putting all the pieces together. He realizes the enemy wasn't mimicking his PvE data, it was copying his PvP combat logs. This confirms his worst fear: someone ridiculously powerful is pulling the strings. The image of a glitchy, digital face flashes in his mind. Could it be Spectator 62 again? Just then, a familiar voice calls out to him, pulling him out of his spiraling thoughts about this shadowy enemy. It was Agent Hannah. She asks if he's secured the perimeter, and he confirms the job is done. But when her eyes land on the monster's mangled body, her jaw hits the floor. She recognizes it as a commander-class invader, something that had absolutely no business being there. She immediately gets on the radio, demanding a cleanup crew, and putting out a general alert for more invaders. Afterwards, she gives him a nod of approval for a job well done. He asks about the other zones. Hannah reports that the situation has stabilized, and that it's time to head back to base. Mission accomplished. A system notification pings him. He's leveled up and gained a skill point. The camera cuts back to the agency's headquarters, where the data from the fight is being feverishly analyzed. His superior officer calls him in for a debrief, stating the topic is the invader he just took down. He explains that this thing was an anomaly, almost like a whole new species, and he needs every last detail. Woo Hyun begins to break down the entire fight, but the man is visibly shaken when he hears that the invader was trying to mimic his movements. On the stream, the commentators immediately pick up on his strange and very telling reaction. The superior explains that an invader has never once tried to imitate a human, which is a terrifying development. He concludes that if they have switched up their strategy like this, their infiltration of Earth will be almost impossible to stop. The gravity of the situation hits Woo Hyun hard, as it would lead to worldwide chaos and a full-scale invasion. He also knows the corporate alliance would likely side with them just to make a buck. The superior takes a long, heavy breath, acknowledging the insane danger they're all facing, but then his whole tone changes. He thanks Woo Hyun for single-handedly preventing a far worse disaster. He then slides a box over to him, saying the rookie is finally qualified to receive it. Woo Hyun opens the gift as he leaves the office, wondering what could possibly be inside such a small box. He's startled by a familiar voice calling his name from down the hallway. It was Kim Hana and Lee Yoo-jin. They look thrilled to see him again after all this time. They rush over to congratulate him on the special gift he just got from the director. Inside the box is an official agent's badge, a rite of passage for everyone who gets promoted. Yoo-jin says that his mentor really should be doing this, but she'll do the honors instead. Carefully, she pins the shining new badge onto the collar of Woo Hyun's uniform. They both sincerely congratulate him on becoming an official agent. He thanks them, and then Yoo-jin tells him there's a critically important perk he needs to know about. He's been granted solo operation authority, which lets him act independently, without all the usual bureaucratic delays. Hana complains that he got it so fast, joking that she had to get seriously banged up to earn that privilege. They both look a little awkward, but they understand that the circumstances behind his promotion were deadly serious. Yoo-jin tells him not to think twice about calling them for help, even with his new authority. Back on the stream, the host cuts in and immediately asks him what his next move is. The stream opens with a major announcement flashing across the screen. Woo Hyun is holding a public audition. He's looking for a disciple, and the entire event has a flashy title to match: the new nuclear superstar. She confirms that a ridiculous number of people applied, and the selection process is already down to the wire. Flashing a thumbs up, she tells the audience to stick around for the explosive finale. Cut to backstage, where the finalists are anxiously waiting, including our two twin siblings. The air is crackling with tension. The twins exchange a nervous look, completely clueless about what kind of insane competition they're about to face. Dawoon glances around, taking in the diverse lineup of finalists. It's a wild mix, from a famous YouTuber to a complete rookie. Then his eyes land on some jacked-up streamer, and he can't help but wonder why a guy like that even got an invite. Right on cue, the camera pans to the musclehead, who lets out a smug scoff, muttering that this so-called god is probably all hype. Dawoon guesses they brought the guy on just to make an example of him, but his sister isn't so convinced. Turns out, Neon was the one who personally approved his application, and in that moment, she just knows this guy is going to be a massive headache. The production crew shatters the tension, starting the final countdown for the live broadcast. The hosts welcome the viewers, introducing themselves before the main event. They explain the whole audition is being held in an open-air studio just to handle the massive crowd. And with no more delay, they summon the star of the show, the god of mechanics himself. Bathed in a brilliant aura, Baek Woo-hyun materializes on stage and gives a formal introduction. The contestants are completely starstruck by his presence, unable to process what they're seeing with their own eyes. But his expression remains dead serious, locked on the day's objective. We get a quick flashback of him asking Neon what kind of game content even requires teammates. The answer is raids, one of the two core PvE experiences in the game. Unlike the solo-friendly reverse world, a raid is all about forming a squad to take down one massive enemy. Back in the present, he stares down the candidates and declares he's here to select a single student. He lays down the law. The chosen one must follow his teachings to the letter. Anyone lacking confidence can leave right now. He also makes it crystal clear that anyone who disobeys his instructions will be kicked out on the spot, but he follows it with a huge promise. If they've got the will to learn, he'll drag every one of them to master rank. The arrogant streamer scoffs, challenging Woo-hyun to prove he's got the skills to back up that big talk. So Woo-hyun steps down from the stage and throws down an insane gauntlet, a 12-on-1 battle. The rule is brutally simple. If they can land just one clean hit within 10 minutes, they win. The commentators are floored. This was totally unscripted. One of the other contestants sees this as a golden opportunity. A single blow guarantees a pass. But knowing it's an impossible task without a handicap, Woo-hyun draws a small circle around himself. He vows not to step out of that tiny space and even promises not to attack first. At this, a candidate asks if they can work together as a team, and he lets them use anything at their disposal. With the stage set, his eye glows with power as he finally announces the test has begun. One of the hunters smirks at him, saying he wants to see just how tough he really is, before unleashing a colossal spear made of pure fire. He screams to see how much of a beating he can take, but our protagonist faces the blazing inferno head-on, without a single trace of fear. With a nearly invisible movement, the spear zips right past him and detonates in a massive explosion behind him. The hunter is completely stunned. He can't wrap his head around how he dodged that attack so easily. Then, with an air of total superiority, Woo-hyun warns them that his time is valuable, and he tells all of them to just attack him at once. The other hunters trade glances, then begin to swarm him, preparing to attack from every direction. They all charge in unison, unleashing a furious storm of attacks from all sides. Even completely surrounded, the masked man faces them all with a cold, calculating glare. Suddenly, a powerful shockwave erupts from his body, effortlessly blasting every single one of his attackers backward. Sprawled on the ground, they realize their attacks are doing absolutely nothing to him. Just as one of them tries to rally the others not to give up, a new figure appears before them. It was another hunter who sprints in, yelling for them to leave the rest to her. Without a moment's hesitation, the girl blitzes toward her target with unbelievable speed. She launches a two-pronged attack, aiming for his head and feet at the same time. But he blocks both strikes in one fluid motion, leaving the girl impressed by his ironclad defense. Without any ceremony, he hurls both of them away with ridiculous strength. Caught completely off guard, they both crash to the ground, totally dazed. And that's when the timer for the test finally hits 0. With that, all the hunters have been defeated, leaving only him standing perfectly still in the middle of the arena. He then says this is proof of his skills and asks if anyone still objects. That brawny streamer quickly speaks up for everyone. He yells that no one disagrees, declaring that this proved his power. But now he has to prove he's a good teacher, too. The scene changes back to the main stage, where Neon announces that the show Nuclear Superstar is about to kick off. The masked man finishes her sentence, confirming the competition is starting with a dead serious look. Then the commentator Seong-chul asks Neon what the disciples' first mission will be. She explains it's a straightforward challenge. Hold a 150-kilogram barbell for 3 whole minutes. Song-chul adds that this particular mission build is designed to massively boost a player's strength and stamina. To prove it, Neon projects a holographic image of her and her partner acing the challenge. She then invites the participants to the stage and asks if anyone has any questions about the task. Instantly, 2 of the hunters shoot their hands up, eager to know all the rules for the mission. Seong-chul lays it down plain and simple. The score is all about speed. Being fast gives you a serious advantage. And with that, Nayeon drops a bomb. The bottom 4 contestants are getting cut, The hunters are completely blindsided by the news. They never saw such a massive elimination coming, but Nyan throws them a lifeline, saying they can try again as long as the 30-minute timer is running. 5 minutes tick by, and the training floor is electric. Everyone is grinding, desperately trying to hoist the barbell. Suddenly, a donation notification pops up on the live stream. A fan wants to know who's going to pass first. The commentator tosses the question to the panel, and the masked man immediately bets on the twins. In the middle of it all, Nayeon's face drains of color as she scans a document detailing the show's terrible ratings. She frantically starts defending their choices, shouting that they aren't dissing long-range builds. To back it up, she blurts out a spoiler. The second mission is a shooting test. She then throws out a challenge, asking who wants to go first, and the swordsman and the twins jump at the chance. The three of them step up to the platform, muscles tense, waiting for the signal to kick off the real test. The moment it starts, they unleash everything they've got. They try to heave the massive barbell into the air all at once. A minute in, one of the twins is already thinking about tapping out, but his sister shuts that down immediately, refusing to quit. But as the clock nears 3 minutes, the swordsman's strength gives out and he drops the bar. He's eliminated. Nayeon's voice booms through the arena, announcing that the twins have just cleared the 3-minute mark. They're the first ones to conquer the challenge. With massive grins, they celebrate their victory, proving they aren't here to play games. The swordsman, desperate, begs to know if he can get another shot, and the host gives him the green light. On his second go, he digs deep and finally pulls it off, showing pure grit. Blue Whale watches from the sidelines, a knot tightening in his stomach. There are barely any qualifying spots left. He can't shake the memory of his trashed online reputation. He knows he has to nail this test, no matter what it takes. Just as a new challenger grabs everyone's attention, he sees his chance. Nayeon then calls out, asking if anyone else is brave enough to face the challenge. That's when Blue Whale steps into the spotlight. All eyes are on him as he declares he'll give it a go. With a confident smirk, he raises his hand, and the host motions for him to come up on stage. He steps onto the platform, a faint blue aura shimmering around him. The test starts, and he wraps his hands around the bar. He prepares to lift. In a single, explosive movement, he hoists the weight with shocking power, making it look completely effortless. Flashing a smug grin, he boasts about cruising past the 2-minute mark on his very first attempt. But the masked man is watching from the side, and his eyes are narrowed with suspicion. As the timer hits 3 minutes, he lets the bar crash to the floor, completing the mission without breaking a sweat. But just as Nayeon starts to congratulate him, the masked man cuts in, telling him to hold on a second. Wooyan looks Blue Whale dead in the eye and asks what he thinks he's pulling, leaving the guy totally clueless. With an ice-cold stare, he reveals he spotted the contestant using illegal buffs. The streamer tries to play innocent, asking what kind of buffs he could even use. The host, intrigued, asks Wooyan why he's so sure the guy cheated. He explains that he saw a subtle shift in the guy's posture, a classic sign of someone using a buff. She asks if he's positive, but Wooyan is dead certain. He has zero doubts. He then challenges Blue Whale to prove him wrong by showing his buff system. Blue Whale just glares back, fuming. Wooyan puts his entire career and all his money on the line. He swears he'll quit the scene for good if he's wrong. With the stakes set, he tells the streamer to go ahead and adjust the system, and the guy takes the bait. Annoyed, he starts fiddling with the system but then complains that it's bugging out because of lag. His face is dripping with sweat, his eyes burning with rage. He knows he's caught, so he threatens everyone in the arena and rage quits the game. He vanishes into thin air right before their eyes. Nayeon stammers out an apology for the chaos, and a rookie streamer named Kureya offers to take the next turn. The competition rolls on, and in the shooting trial, the elite marksmen absolutely dominated. The eliminated players give their farewells, and the host gives a shout out to everyone for pouring their hearts into the trial. And just like that, the individual missions are a wrap. Seong Cheol steps up to announce the main event, the team battles. Teams A and B are officially formed, carefully balanced based on each participant's rank. Nayeon then amps up the crowd, revealing the first, long-awaited group mission. She explains that killer robots will spawn every minute, and the team that scraps the most bots wins. Song Chol jumps in, adding that all skills are fair game, but buffs are going to be restricted. Suddenly, training bots materialize in the arena, and the host kicks off the challenge. After the first round wraps up, the scoreboard flashes the results. Team A has already taken down 10 robots. The commentator breaks it down. Team A has the upper hand, because they're stacked with long-range attackers. Meanwhile, the close quarters fighters are getting swarmed. If they're not quick enough on the attack, they get overwhelmed. Kureya and the twin are stressing about their team's performance, so she proposes they ask their coach for some help. The rest of Team B is totally on board with the idea, since it would also be a chance to see if the master is legit. The girl then approaches Nayeon. She asks if they can get some special training. To make it even, Nayeon declares that she and Song Cheol will each serve as a coach for one of the teams. Woo Yan finds the whole thing pretty entertaining and says he's down for it, as long as Team A agrees too. Team A huddles up to discuss the offer, wondering if getting the other coach might actually be better for them. They figure 30 minutes of training probably won't change the outcome anyway. So the team is on board, with one of the fighters raising a hand, signaling they're all in. The trial gets put on pause. Woo Hyun pulls his crew together, laying out the game plan. They have to exploit the robot's fatal flaws. He tells them, to clutch this win, they gotta get that these machines feel zero pain and just mindlessly charge at any opening. But, if they can read those attack patterns, they can totally flip the script on them. Armed with this knowledge, he promises they'll start seeing the enemy's moves before they even happen. Once the strategy session wraps, he steps into the arena and announces it's time for a live fire drill. He looks at his team and says, "Bring it. Come at me." Instantly, his entire vibe shifts, radiating this terrifying, mechanical aura just like one of the robots. The swordsman braces himself, knowing that even though it's just a drill, the danger feels absolutely real. Not wasting a single moment, the swordsman lets out a battle cry and lunges forward, pouring every ounce of his strength into the strike. But Woo Hyun, he effortlessly catches the blade between two fingers, leaving the fighter absolutely stunned. With a casual flick, he sends the swordsman flying backward, who hits the ground hard, completely owned in the first second of training. Witnessing this insane beatdown, the twins decide to jump him at once, trying a pincer strategy to box him in. They immediately split up, darting in opposite directions, while Kureha starts casting a magic spell from the backline. But she freezes, terrified she'll hit her own teammates and completely unsure of her next move. In that split second of doubt, Woo Hyun blinks in and lands a solid jab right to the sister's gut, knocking the wind right out of her. An instant later, he pivots and cracks the brother with a clean shot to the face, dropping them both. With the twins down for the count, Woo Hyun sees the problem clear as day. These guys have zero synergy. He tells them step one is to lock down a strategy for fighting, as a single, coordinated unit. Team A watches from the sidelines, totally blown away by the rival coach's sharp analysis. Seong Cheol offers a weak apology for eavesdropping, claiming the advice is only relevant to their team of brawlers. He then tells his own squad they're good and suggests they go review their own strategies. 15 minutes later, the challenge kicks off, and Team B walks out with a whole new level of confidence. It's their time to shine, and the combat droids materialize in the arena, primed for a fight. The match starts, and the team explodes forward, showcasing a completely new offensive formation. The twin sister connects with a heavy blow, putting the advice from their training into action. She recalls his words. She has to stay ready for a counter, anticipating the robot's every move. Right on cue, her brother dives in from above, and their combined assault shatters the enemy's guard. The swordsman then seizes the opening, finishing the machine with a surgical slice to its leg. From a safe distance, Kureha focuses her energy, finally understanding her true purpose is to provide support for the entire team. In a quick flashback, her coach lays it out for her. Only ranged fighter, she is the linchpin of the whole squad. He pushes her to forget her fear of messing up, and she accepts, her eyes burning with newfound resolve. But back in the present, the swordsman is in a tight spot, as a robot closes in from behind. Without a shred of hesitation, Kureha claps her hands together, unleashing her ice magic to save her teammate. The blast flash freezes the robot solid, stopping its sneak attack dead in its tracks. She screams that she's got their six, telling them to push forward without any worries. The commentators are just freaking out, unable to process the squad's unbelievable speed. And as the clock hits 0, the final robot is obliterated, wrapping up the round with a flawless performance. The final tally flashes on screen. Team B has taken down a whopping 14 robots. Seong Cheol is staggered, admitting this is undeniable proof of Coach Woo Hyun's god-tier skills. But when it's their turn for a second go, Team A only scraps together a total of 12 robot kills. With that, Nayeon projects the final scores, putting the best results from both teams side by side. She then officially declares Team B the winner, and they erupt in celebration, screaming that they've conquered the trial. As the victors party, Team A can only watch, crushed by their defeat. One of the losing members figures that, based on these results, Woo Hyun must be a genius at coaching marksmen too. So he walks over to the coach and begs for one last piece of advice before his team is officially cut. With a completely calm look, our main character agrees to drop some knowledge on the defeated squad. The camera cuts back to the hosts, who announce the grand finals will be a 2-on-2 showdown. The eliminated contestants say their farewells, thanking everyone for the shot and the wild ride. The final mission is then revealed, a brutal survival match where the last team standing takes it all. With the rules set, the final pairings are locked in, pitting the twins on one team against the swordsman and Kureha on the other. The scene then jumps to a high-end gym, right after a grueling training session has wrapped up. A woman, drenched in sweat and totally spent, thanks her personal trainer for the intense workout. She then picks up her phone, remembering to check up on the competition's results. She sees that the twins pulled off the win, which, honestly, was what everyone figured would happen. But she trails off, completely lost in thought, because she never in a million years expected Woo Hyun to show up as a coach on this program. She remembers that coaches get to pick a team and starts to wonder, would he choose her? A huge smile spreads across her face as she gets hyped at the idea of doing another live stream with him. We cut back to Nayeon and Song Cheol, who are kicking off yet another live broadcast. They're finally about to get the nuclear zombie's answer, a question that's been hanging in the air since the last stream. He then drops a bombshell, revealing his master plan. He's going to conquer the entire reverse world, and he's going to do it completely solo. Kim Hana just nods, saying that with his insane level of skill, that's probably not even a challenge for him. But just then, Lee Yoo-jin cuts in with a message for him, telling him to check his phone. Over in the garage, a lone phone vibrates to life, and he sees the alert he's been waiting for. It's a text from Yoo-jin, a chilling reminder of the thugs who ambushed them earlier. She drops a bombshell. Those men were targeting him specifically, and there's a serious chance they're coming back for round 2. But her message continues, promising they won't make a move until they're fully prepared. The text concludes with a cryptic list of worlds, sending our protagonist spiraling into a vortex of thought. Back on the live stream, Neon points out the obvious. This is basically a declaration of another attack. As he pulls up to the designated coordinates, a shadowy voice calls out to Woo Hyun the moment his foot hits the pavement. An agent materializes from the darkness, introducing himself and stating he's there to provide a safe escort to his final destination. Woo Hyun gives a nod of thanks to the driver, who wishes him luck before he plunges into the foreboding forest. With that, the car peels away, abandoning our hero in the heart of this dark and sinister landscape. Woo Hyun emerges into a clearing, only to be confronted by a shimmering, otherworldly portal hanging in midair. He scans the security protocols, but a sudden chill runs down his spine as he realizes the devastating truth. He's completely surrounded. Lurking in the canopy of trees, a hostile with a blazing sword lies in wait, ready to strike. A quick scan of his surroundings confirms his fears. A total of 6 enemies, all coiled like snakes in the shadows. In an instant, they unleash a coordinated barrage of magic straight for him. But Woo Hyun stands his ground, an island of calm in a storm of imminent death. One of the assassins lunges from the chaos, spear first, aiming to run him through. But Woo Hyun explodes into motion, leaping and weaving through the onslaught of spells, already lining up a counterattack on a mage. He closes the distance in a heartbeat, cocking back his fist for a brutal shot to the face. But another goon dives in, taking the full force of the blow to shield his comrade. Woo Hyun lands gracefully, poised for the battle to come. That's when the group's leader finally emerges, remarking that his senses are even sharper than the rumors suggested. With a venomous smile, he greets him, saying it's a pleasure to finally meet Woo Hyun. But then his tone shifts as he asks if maybe he should call him Test Subject 48 instead, a name that makes Woo Hyun's blood run cold. Woo Hyun's eyes narrow as he demands to know if they're with the corporation, and the man confirms their allegiance. Cutting straight to the chase, the leader orders him to surrender and return to the laboratory. The offer leaves Woo Hyun completely baffled. He dangles the promise of enhancing his abilities, but our hero immediately shuts him down, snarling that he's full of it. A suffocating aura erupts from his body as he gets into a combat stance, telling the man to cut the crap. The man just smirks, lamenting that this was the answer he gave. He then issues a chilling warning. Whatever happens next, the consequences are his alone to bear. As his men brace for a fight, the leader screams the order to secure the target, and they all surge forward with a torrent of magic. One of the mages attempts a close-quarters spell, but Woo Hyun deflects the blast effortlessly. The clash of their powers detonates in a massive shockwave, forcing him back on the defensive. He spins his spear in a blur, perfectly blocking the dagger of an assassin that materializes right at his flank. With an unbreakable focus, he holds his ground, ready for anything they can throw at him. In the next moment, he soars into the air and uses his weapon to shield himself from a colossal beam of energy. The leader roars in desperation, yelling at his men not to lose their nerve and to keep up the pressure. Obeying his command, the other hunters unleash their elemental arsenals, all at the same time. Fire, ice, and wind magic converge, creating a cataclysmic explosion that obliterates the entire area. But as the smoke clears, Woo Hyun is revealed standing tall, completely unharmed, and without a single scratch on him. Back on the stream, Neon remarks that their sloppy teamwork is no match for the absolute unit that is the nuclear zombie. Seeing their combined assault fail, the remaining hunters are seething with rage. Left with no other choice, the leader bellows for everyone to use item TLO. 1. their last resort. The commentators are completely stumped. They've never heard of this item and can't find a single shred of data on it online. Shang Shou immediately figures that the nuclear zombie must have gone completely off script yet again. The leader clutches a strange, pulsating pill, warning Wu Hyun that he's about to feel a world of regret. Without a second thought, he swallows the item, preparing to unleash its unknown power. A vile, dark energy consumes him, and he screams in agony as his very body begins to warp. He convulses on the ground, his form twisting into something grotesque and unnatural. Wu Hyun watches the horrifying scene, trying to process what the hell is happening. One by one, the other hunters begin their own agonizing transformations. Over on the live feed, Zion recognizes the malevolent energy, noting that it looks terrifyingly similar to an invader's. The leader warns that this is no simple power-up, and tells him to brace for a living nightmare. Wasting no time, the newly transformed hunter rockets forward, at a speed that seems to defy reality itself. He then unleashes a devastating strike charged with a dark, corrosive energy. The attack triggers a gargantuan explosion, bathing everything in a sinister purple glow. But Wu Hyun bursts from the smoke, instantly realizing their power has shifted to an entirely different dimension. Now, another hunter seizes the opening, launching a massive fireball right at him, but he evades the onslaught with fluid grace, spinning and parrying every blast with his weapon. With swift, economical movements, he flawlessly defends against the raging inferno. Just then, another enemy descends from the sky above. A colossal slash of green energy rips through the air, detonating on impact as Neon, watching the live stream, realizes something is seriously off. He slams his foot down, analyzing the bizarre new way his enemies are fighting. That's when it clicks. These hunters are being controlled like puppets. He knows he has to shut this down, and fast, so he can get to the bottom of what's really going on. Just then, a hunter unleashes a raging inferno, trying to roast him alive, but he just carves straight through the firestorm with his spear, completely unfazed by the assault. He then blitzes through the flames, locking his sights directly on the leader, ready to end it. The leader desperately throws up a rock shield to defend himself, but Wu Hyun obliterates it in a single strike. With his guard shattered, the hunter seethes with rage, furious that he's being so utterly dominated. That's the cue for two mages to warp in for backup, weaving together a combined energy assault. They blast a beam cannon and a shockwave at him in perfect sync, but he launches himself into the air at the last possible second, effortlessly evading the attack and coiling for the counter. In response, he unleashes a devastating volley of energy beams that tear through absolutely everything in their path. The resulting explosion is apocalyptic, annihilating the entire clearing and leaving nothing but scorched earth. Peering through the dense smoke, the leader is utterly bewildered, wondering what just happened. And then, one by one, all his men simply collapse, wiped out in a single, devastating moment. Wu Hyun materializes and snatches the leader by his collar, ready to rip some answers out of him. He growls, demanding to know about the drug they used, but the man can only choke and sputter. With blood streaming down his face, the leader looks horrified. This wasn't how the drug was supposed to work, and with a final, shuddering breath, his life just flickers out, dying right there in Wu Hyun's grasp. He immediately puts it together. The drug's effects must have been tampered with. Since this was a completely unknown substance, he scans the area for any clues, but finds absolutely nothing of value, just a bunch of shattered cell phones and trashed weapons littering the ground. Suddenly, Kim Hana and Lee Yujin come sprinting onto the scene, shouting his name. Panicked, Hana starts apologizing for being late, but Wu Hyun, as cool as ever, just tells her it's all good. Back on the live stream, Seong Chul comments that this mission just dropped some major lore for the game's plot. Wu Hyun asks them how they even knew about the ambush. Hana explains they got an anonymous tip, revealing that Agent Ji-hoon had fed them a bogus location, and then immediately resigned. She managed to pinpoint his real location using the car's dashcam, but by then, Wu Hyun had already cleaned house. He waves off any mention of a reward, so the team gets to work securing the site. The scene then dissolves into a shot of the city at night, where everything on the surface seems calm and peaceful. But instead of heading home, Wu Hyun ventures alone down a dark, ominous alley. The stream commentators are totally baffled, assuming he was going to report to his superior. In that moment, a suspicion sparks in his mind. What if the anonymous spectator is actually the game's developer? He flashes back to the adaptive artificial intelligence and all the new game systems that appeared out of nowhere. He also remembers the invaders and that mystery drug nobody had ever seen before. With that, all the pieces fall into place, explaining why the game's narrative constantly warps and shifts based on his actions. Then, he has a stunning revelation. Reverse Planet is the master key to unlocking all the secrets of this world. He decides on his first move, to investigate the corporate alliance, because he needs to dismantle them for good. He pulls up a holographic interface and begins altering his build, leaving the commentators totally scratching their heads. He remembers. This was the exact build he ran in his old world as Superman. A dark, terrifying aura erupts around him as he activates his ultimate power, the destruction build. With his new class activated, he stares dead into the camera as the live chat goes absolutely ballistic over his new look. He doesn't know the drug's manufacturing location, but he remembers a corporation was involved. Soon, he's standing right in front of Gumption Electronics, confirming his suspicions it was them all along. The commentators are floored, realizing he's planning a full-blown raid on their headquarters. And under the pale moonlight, he prepares to launch his one-man infiltration mission. With a thought, he completely alters his appearance, cloaking himself in a disguise, and his power level spikes even higher. He slips into a test subject's uniform and dons his mask, ready to move like lightning. With his preparations complete, he rockets into the sky, wondering if he should just go all out from the very beginning. The camera zooms in on the top floor of the building, the final objective of his silent invasion. Without a shred of hesitation, he smashes through a window and makes his explosive entrance, catching everyone completely off guard. Screams of terror erupt from the employees at the sudden breach, with no idea what is happening. As piercing alarms begin to blare, pure chaos spreads across the floor, sending everyone into a panic. But Woo Hyun stands perfectly still in the eye of the storm, dark energy crackling in his palms. On the stream, Nyeon worries about other players getting caught in the crossfire, but Seong Chul explains that a special system has just activated. It's the phase shift system, which isolates players inside their own separate instances. A swarm of security guards closes in on him, shouting for him not to move, trying desperately to contain the breach. But he pays them zero attention and just explodes forward at an unbelievable speed, blowing past them like they're standing still. And in that moment, he deduces. He's hunting for a hidden passage into the lab, when suddenly, a fresh squad of guards ambushes him. Their commander barks at him to freeze. And in that instant, a chilling memory floods his mind as he recognizes the man's face. It's Jong Joel, his personal tormentor from the past. Echoes of old screams claw at his mind, all demanding vengeance, and a dark promise flashes in our hero's eyes. The commander opens his mouth to shout an order, but a deafening crack rips through the air, cutting him off. In an instant, the entire ceiling shatters. Tons of concrete and steel rain down, instantly flattening most of the squad under the crushing weight. There was no time to escape. The few who survived are left completely shell-shocked, unable to grasp how the ceiling could have just collapsed. And in that moment, we see exactly why they call Baek Woo Hyun destruction. With a gaze of pure ice, he unleashes the raw, overwhelming power that defines him. He is the living embodiment of his title. The commander's blood runs cold. He realizes he's not fighting some random intruder, he's up against a true monster. In a desperate panic, he screams at his remaining men to attack, as he conjures and unleashes a lethal spear of pure shadow. The weapon hurtles straight for Woo Hyun, but he doesn't even flinch. He just casually raises a hand, a brilliant azure energy flaring to life to intercept the deadly projectile. His raw power not only halts its momentum, but completely disintegrates the spear into nothingness. It's just absolute domination. The resulting shockwave blasts the commander off his feet, his mind reeling in disbelief at how his ultimate attack was just swatted away. Through the swirling dust, Woo Hyun's voice cuts through the haze, dripping with sarcasm. Is that all you got? He stands untouched amid the carnage, the ground now slick with blood. Then, twisting the knife, he asks a loaded question. You really putting your faith in the Spectre? The commander's gaze drifts over the bodies of his fallen crew, and a raw curse escapes his lips, fueled by pure rage and crushing humiliation. In a final, desperate gambit, he roars and unleashes a torrent of raw energy with every last ounce of his strength. The power materializes into a colossal stone spike that hurtles toward Woo Hyun, but the entire attack just disintegrates into dust. It smashes against an invisible shield right in front of him, leaving our hero standing there, completely untouched by the blast. With just a casual flick of his wrist, he shows everyone who's really in control of this fight, and the leader suddenly erupts in a blood-curdling scream. As the sound of his own bones snapping fills the air, he collapses, utterly broken and defeated, babbling apologies and begging to be spared. He tries to crawl away, desperately pleading for Woo Hyun to at least let him live, but Woo Hyun just says he's every bit as pathetic as he was in the past. His jet-black wings flare out as he remembers this very man slaughtering his friends while laughing in his face. He's seen this movie before, and he's ending it now. He murmurs, "I've seen enough," and conjures a tiny, pitch-black orb in his palm. The leader's eyes go wide with terror, unable to process what kind of completely broken power this is. In the next moment, the man is violently dragged into the sphere, his screams of pure terror and despair cut short as he's devoured by the void. Instantly, the only thing left of him is a dark red smear on the floor. On the live stream, Neon clamps a hand over her mouth, completely horrified. She's totally shook by the brutal execution she just witnessed. The commentator quickly announces that the broadcast is being censored. For a moment, even Shang Cho is blown away, admitting that Haek Jakal's power is on a whole other level. Back in the fight, Woo Hyun approaches a heavily reinforced door. Figuring he's wiped out all the trash, he decides to get a move on before more show up to waste his time. And right on cue, deep inside a secret lab, klaxons start blaring as red emergency lights flash everywhere. A researcher panics and fumbles to call for backup, but it's too late. Woo Hyun is already at the door, and the man shrieks in absolute fear. He can't believe he's standing right there. He begs Woo Hyun not to take another step, but our hero yanks everyone into the air without a shred of mercy. He hurls one of the scientists into the lab wall like a ragdoll. After clearing the room in seconds, he sits at the main computer and gets ready to dig for intel. He slices through their security system and uncovers a list of sponsors that perfectly matches his memories. He also finds the research data on the enhancement drug. According to the files, it was only supposed to amplify a person's abilities. He starts to wonder why it twisted people into those grotesque invaders instead. He concludes that somebody must have sabotaged the drug, but his train of thought is cut short by a scream. An arrogant-looking scientist appears, flanked by two guard robots. He calls Woo Hyun a bastard. The man then yells out an order for the robots to annihilate the intruder with everything they've got, but Woo Hyun simply raises his hand. He unleashes a wave of purple energy. With his power, he freezes the robots in midair, seizing complete control over their movements. He demonstrates an absolutely absurd level of precision, targeting every single joint and servo in their mechanical bodies. Then, with a single clench of his fist, he crushes the war machines into a twisted ball of scrap metal. The scientist is completely stunned, paralyzed by the raw power he just witnessed. Terrified, the man drops to his knees, pleading for Woo Hyun to spare him, but showing zero mercy. The scientist is finished off with a quick, brutal strike. With the lab now splattered in blood, he resumes his search for answers. The commentators are losing their minds, saying the most insane part of this is that he's raiding an entire corporation, all by himself. He doesn't find much else, but then a mission complete window pops up, leveling him up. He's genuinely shocked by this. He had no idea he was even on a mission. The commentators start freaking out, realizing that the only explanation is that the missions are being created by him. Neon wonders if that's even a thing, but not even the expert has any clue what's going on. Woo Hyun, however, confirms his own suspicions. He now understands that he can literally control the game's story. He decides it's best to return to base and calmly plan his next move. The scene shifts to the American headquarters, where a woman comments on the game's bizarre new system. An employee explains that the update was pushed through, while the servers were down for maintenance. And to make things even crazier, he says they found digital fingerprints of outside involvement. They belong to the artificial intelligence, Deus. The woman is floored by this revelation, asking if the AI has finally achieved full sentience. They speculate that if Deus is behind all this, it would explain the system's radio silence. But the woman grows quiet, lost in thought. She says the name of that anonymous donor is what's really bothering her. She then pulls out her phone and shoots off a message asking if this was Deus's handiwork. In a flashback, a young man with white hair makes a promise that they would build the world's greatest AI. He then changes the subject, saying he'd fill them in on the rest of the plan when the time was right. One of the executives asks if they uncovered anything else, and the employee confirms he found a batch of heavily encrypted data. Hearing this, the woman declares that their top priority now is to crack those files. Days later, two streamers are gushing about the last stream, which went absolutely viral. Neon gets a message from a massive YouTuber asking to be a guest on the show. Meanwhile, Woo Hyun is thinking that the anonymous spectator has been oddly quiet about the new system. But just then, a colossal donation pops up, with the spectator congratulating him on the mission. With their channel blowing up, Neon suggests their next stream should be all about PvP, but Woo Hyun immediately shoots the idea down. He says they have to stick to the story missions. He explains he can't waste a single second now that he can actively investigate the game's secrets. Neon thinks this is super weird, since he was never this obsessed with the game's plot before that day. She remembers watching his entire vibe shift in the blink of an eye on stream. The chat was blowing up about how cold and detached he seemed in real life. And honestly, she had to agree compared to the guy she knew, he was an emotional black hole. It wasn't just that his insane fighting skills materialized out of nowhere, with zero explanation. The freakiest part? He was absolutely obsessed with finding out who that one anonymous viewer was. Neon nervously clasped her hands together, finally deciding to voice the question that had been eating at her. "Did something happen that I don't know about?" she asked, her voice soft. "You just seem so different." She pressed on. "I've never seen you this locked in on a game. It feels like it's more than just a game to you." Drenched in worry, she offered her hand. "If you ever need help, you know you can count on me." Internally, Woo Hyun was kicking himself. He'd lost his composure, and now he was making everyone freak out. So he slapped on a fake smile, apologized, and caved to the PvP idea, promising her everything was fine. But as she brought it up again, he felt a flash of the agony he endured hiding his true identity. A few days later, a new livestream kicks off, with Neon hyping up the day's event for her fans. With a massive grin, she announces that today is all about smashing records using builds handpicked by the audience. The viewers had been begging to see some fresh builds during the last stream. Seong-chul was absolutely buzzing, convinced no one could possibly stop Hek-chul, even with a random loadout. Neon, however, felt a pit in her stomach. If he got saddled with a trash build, his legendary winning streak was toast. But Woo Hyun had already told her he didn't give a damn what build he got. On stream, he just casually told her to do whatever she wanted, radiating an insane level of confidence. Song-chul chimed in with a warning, noting that in PvP, the build gets auto-adjusted to max level, leaving absolutely zero room for error. Just then, a donation popped up, declaring there are no weak builds, only weak players. Taking her cue, Neon prepped the roulette wheel, telling the chat to flood her with suggestions through donations. Instantly, the screen became a waterfall of cash and requests, with everyone desperate to see their favorite builds thrown into the ring. When time ran out, Neon gave the wheel a huge spin, announcing the first challenge. The wheel landed on Iron Monarch, locking in the first build for the competition. This class allows its user to summon and command up to 12 Iron Knights all at once. Jongjo looked worried, since juggling that many minions without any assistance is brutally difficult. But Neon just smirked, saying that if anyone could handle it, Hek-chul would definitely figure it out. With that settled, she declared the mission, to shatter the current record of 76 consecutive wins. The system screen flashed. A survival match had been found in solo mode. The arena materializes an abandoned factory. The first fight was finally about to begin. The commentators were already buzzing, wondering if he could actually win with such a massive handicap. Woo Hyun calmly analyzed his rival, who looked like he was running a Wind and Thunder build. As the countdown hit 0, the first round of the PvP duel officially kicked off. His opponent lunged forward without a moment's hesitation, Storm Soul ability already crackling, but Woo Hyun simply snapped his fingers and uttered a single word, summon. An armored knight materialized from thin air, blocking the attack and leaving the guy totally stunned. The opponent was bewildered, recognizing the armor as the Iron Monarchs. The knight pressed forward, its blade swinging, forcing the player to scramble backward to parry the massive blow. But something felt incredibly off. He couldn't figure out why there was only one knight on the field. On the stream, the casters were speculating that he might have poured all his power into a single, supercharged minion. The player rushed in, thinking that, if it was just one knight, the fight was as good as won. With a battle cry, he swung at the armor, expecting an easy takedown. But his attack phased right through the knight. It was just a projection of light. He was floored. He realized too late that the real knight was now on the other side, ready to strike. The minion unleashed a devastating slash, sending the player flying. The guy pushed himself off the ground, trying to process what the hell just happened. He looked back to see the knight standing perfectly still, and had no idea how it had even moved. Then, more knights flickered into existence, and suddenly Woo Hyun commanded 4 minions in the arena. Neon was ecstatic, shouting that she told them he just needed to get a feel for the build. Her opponent, however, was starting to get desperate. He knew he had to finish this fight as fast as possible. With that thought, he unleashed his ultimate ability, a massive area of effect storm of wind and lightning. As he did, a tiny sphere of light began to form in Woo Hyun's hand, glowing with intense power. A slow smile spread across his face as he murmured, "So this is how this build really works." In an instant, all 12 knights erupted into existence, completely encircling his enemy. The commentators went absolutely ballistic, losing their minds that he'd summoned the entire legion. With no escape, the player activated his final defensive skill, the Fear Zone, in a last-ditch effort to survive. Completely trapped, the player was swarmed as the knights attacked him relentlessly. The commentator's voice was strained as he explained that controlling every single one of those units at once requires pushing your brain past its absolute limits. It takes a god-tier view of the entire battlefield, razor-sharp judgment, and an insane level of focus. Even backed into a corner, his opponent howls that he's not going down without a fight, unleashing a desperate flurry of attacks. But Woo Hyun's ice-cold gaze tracks his every move. He's already 3 steps ahead, completely unfazed. Just then, a knight materializes in front of him, sword raised for the finishing blow, and the system declares the round over. With Baek Woo Hyun clinching the victory, the casters are betting the second round will be a quick one now that he's warmed up. In the following round, the player explodes with rage after being trapped again, screaming for them to get lost. He desperately tries to lash out, but his strikes are completely useless against the minions' flawless formation. Just like that, he's utterly overwhelmed by their coordinated assault with zero chance of escape, and the match end screen flashes into view. Confirming Woo Hyun's 2-0 sweep, the defeated player cracks a crazed smile, thinking that battle was absolutely legendary. With that, Songchul announces that the win streak has now climbed to a staggering 56 victories. Naeun then spins the wheel again, absolutely hyped to see the next build, while the pro gamer tunes into the stream. Seeing the win streak has just hit 75, he's blown away by what he's witnessing, admitting that Hakjai is on a whole other level. It doesn't matter what build he's handed, our hero masters every single one flawlessly. That's exactly why the pro says he's dying for a chance to face him, even with a massive build disadvantage. But then he spots it on screen. The final 2 matches will be with his original build. A fire ignites in his eyes as he declares he now has one more reason to fight, telling them to cue the next match without wasting another second. The man slams the start button, absolutely primed for the ultimate challenge. The system chimes in, announcing a new survival match has been located. In that exact moment, a new player phases into the arena, declaring he finally made it, leaving the commentators absolutely stunned. As they recognize the figure who just appeared, the broadcast explains he's a professional player, a world champion, and was a hair's breadth from being MVP. His name is Nikki Lee Jianwoo, and a menacing dark aura just bleeds off him. Woo Hyun stands opposite, stating it's an honor to finally cross paths. Across the arena, with a slight smirk, the pro gamer simply calls out his name, Hakjai. The casters are in disbelief, never expecting a pro of this caliber to just show up here. Naeun thinks it's Seuss, he's not on his main build, but Songchul explains it's a contract issue. The countdown hits 5 seconds on screen. The atmosphere crackles with tension as the two titans prepare to clash. Nikki taunts him, saying he's a lot quieter than he is on his live streams. With matching confident grins, the two square off, and the player roars for them to get started. The round 1 screen materializes, kicking off the most hyped battle of the day. Woo Hyun explodes forward in a literal blink of an eye, and in one fluid motion, severs his opponent's head. Naeun gasps at his insane speed, and the chat goes absolutely ballistic over the win. But a pro player isn't taken down that easily. Unveiling his true power, he used a clone to fake out Woo Hyun, melting into the shadows. Nikki breathes out. That was way too close. And now, he declares, it's my turn to play. He starts condensing raw dark energy in his palm, prepping his opening move. All of a sudden, he unleashes a shadow bird to test Woo Hyun's reflexes. The attack is so blindingly fast that the creature's sword slams into the ground in an instant. But Woo Hyun flawlessly dodges, and Nikki looks impressed by his rival's agility. Woo Hyun settles into his stance, praising his opponent's killer battle instincts. Songchul remarks on the stream that the fight is unbelievably intense. One tiny mistake could be fatal. Naeun agrees, adding that even a single scratch could decide the entire match. Woo Hyun notes his movements are smoother, more fluid than any other player he's faced. He deduces his opponent's skill cooldown isn't back up yet. This is his opening. The narration booms that they're about to clash again, cranking the tension of the fight to the max. So Woo Hyun surges forward, dead set on ending this before his enemy can recover, and he goes for the killing blow. But Nikki manages to throw up his wings to block it at the very last microsecond. Without missing a beat, Woo Hyun presses the attack. He forces the player into a relentless defense, then focuses every ounce of his power into a single point, shattering the wing's guard. Nikki praises Woo Hyun's monstrous power, feeling the absurd force behind his weapon, but he immediately counters, firing off a blast of energy. The blast forces Woo Hyun to backpedal. Even while wounded, he still manages to land a grazing blow, showcasing his incredible skill. The system screen lights up, announcing the end of the round with another victory for Baek Woo Hyun. Songchul admits he was expecting a drawn-out battle, but this just goes to show how overwhelmingly strong he truly is. Round 2 kicks off, and Nikki compliments Woo Hyun on the sick fight they just had. With a smile, he then pops the question, is Woo Hyun interested in going pro and joining his team? He admits he came all this way just to make the offer face-to-face. Woo Hyun turns him down, saying he hasn't even considered it yet. The pro insists, telling him to hit him up if he ever changes his mind. With that, he launches himself forward, shouting that, for now, they need to finish this. The two exchange a flurry of blows at a mind-boggling speed, and you already know the commentators are losing their minds over this. Nikki's face twists in rage. He can't even land a scratch, and with a primal roar, he lunges forward for a desperate, direct claw strike. But Woo Hyun is totally unfazed. He's thinking, yeah, you're quick, but not quick enough. And with a single, surgical movement, he plunges the blade deep into Nikki's chest, ending the duel instantly. As Nikki collapses to the floor, he gasps that Woo Hyun is just on a completely different level, admitting there's no way this guy is just some rando amateur. Before pixelating away, He tells Wu Yun to seriously consider his offer, adding that he actually had a ton of fun. The victory screen explodes onto the broadcast. Wu Yun's 76th consecutive win. The casters go absolutely wild. He didn't just beat Nikki, he just tied the all-time win streak record. A massive donation explodes on stream, asking if he's going to face Battler for the record-breaking 77th victory. The chat and commentators are losing it, screaming at him to queue up again and break the legend. But, plot twist, he never even got to fight Battler during that entire stream. He wrapped up that session with an insane 85 win streak, just styling on every single challenger. A few days go by, and Nikki is asking his buddy why he didn't even try to snipe Hachiko. The friend gets heated, snapping back that he obviously tried, but the matchmaking algorithm just refused to put them in the same game. Then, a light bulb flicks on for Nikki. He asks his friend if he remembers that collab proposal he made, and just like that, a new plan is born. He's going to invite Hexacore to be the first ever guest on his stream. But his friend is skeptical, pointing out Wu Yun clearly has zero interest in the pro scene. Nikki isn't worried though. He guarantees he'll make Wu Yun say yes, no matter what it takes. Fast forward a few days, and it's showtime. Everything is set and ready to go live. Neon announces that, thanks to a new system update, they're handing Wu Yun the reins and letting him take full control. The moment he jacks in, his avatar's outfit shifts into a sleek, light blue protective suit. The commentators are totally baffled. They have no idea where he is. Song Chol clarifies that they're in some kind of rundown slum district. Wu Yun steps into a grimy red puddle and announces that he's finally made it to his destination. He comes to a stop in front of a sketchy-looking shop, confirming this is the exact same spot from his past world. He thinks to himself that ever since the system update, he's been plotting his next move, and getting here was the absolute quickest, most foolproof method for gathering intel. Since these folks are at war with the mega corporations, they're bound to have some seriously valuable info on them. But before he barges in, he plants his feet, ready for a fight. In an instant, several hooded thugs are hoisted into the air by an invisible force, screaming for him to let them go. Wu Yun's face is pure ice. He shatters their arms with a sickening crunch and lets them drop to the ground, screaming. He then snarls that if they so much as look at him again, he'll snap their necks. With a deathly glare, he threatens, asking if they'd rather he just kicked the door down. As he powers up to strike, a mysterious voice from inside tells him to wait just a moment. A woman swings the door open, remarking on his impatience before gesturing for him to come in. She welcomes him to the shop, explaining that here, they provide anything a client could possibly dream of. No matter the object or the person, they can procure it. A creepy-looking teddy bear suddenly pipes up, demanding to know what an intruder from Gumshan wants. Wu Yun states his business plainly. He wants anything that will absolutely wreck the labs and their corporate sponsors. A sly grin spreads across the shopkeeper's face as she says she has a job that's right up his alley. She then asks if he's interested in hearing the details, smiling as she calls him her special Avenger client. The shopkeeper slides a confidential file in front of him and tells him to pay close attention. She's pinpointed the location of a secret research lab that's currently operating with a skeleton crew. The mission is simple: infiltrate the facility, obliterate everything inside, and steal all of their research data. Wu Yun doesn't even need a second to think about it. He accepts the job on the spot, no questions asked. And with that, a brand new mission screen materializes, titled Lab Invasion. The commentators are floored once again, unable to process how a new mission just generated, completely out of thin air. A donation flies in, with a viewer pointing out that this looks like a genuine, undiscovered questline. Neon starts wondering if Wu Yun just unlocked a secret third-story route, aside from the two main ones everyone knows. Song Chol speculates that this shop could be a whole new system that operates in parallel with the other quest lines. The chat explodes with theories about how he discovered this place, and Neon says she has a theory. But either way, she continues, it's time to see how our boy handles it. The camera cuts to a snow-dusted forest, the entire scene shrouded in a cold, mysterious vibe. Wu Yun silently darts between the trees, scanning the landscape for any sign of this supposed hidden lab. He unleashes a concentrated beam of raw energy, blasting open a secret passage concealed in the ground. He hovers in the air above it, and finally spots the enemy base sprawling out beneath him. A flood of traumatic memories from his past hits him, and he swears to himself that he will eradicate every last one of them. In a single, fluid motion, he dives straight into the lab, his energy exploding outward like a shockwave. The guards at the entrance are blasted off their feet before they even know what's happening. One of the soldiers screams in agony, crushed by the overwhelming force that just slammed him against a reinforced wall. At that exact moment, alarms start blaring as Wu Yun turns to confront the rest of the lab's security forces. The narration points out that he's being flooded with offers from professional teams, but he clearly couldn't care less. He roars for them all to freeze, as a squad of guards rushes in and forms up. One of the squad leaders barks an order to stop him but gets cut off before he can even finish the word. In the blink of an eye, Wu Yun flashes past him, and the soldier realizes this guy is on another level. Panicking, he screams for all units to activate their new gear, the TL-02. Wu Hyun whips around, trying to figure out what the hell this new drug is. It's nothing he's ever seen before. Over on the stream, the commentators are absolutely losing their minds. The plot is thickening, and Seong Cheol speculates that it might be a twisted version of that other pill. Without a second thought, the guards down the drug, and their bodies immediately start convulsing on the floor in pure agony. And just like that, their flesh twists and bone cracks as they morph into those invaders right before his eyes. Nayeon is freaking out. Hak Jikal has never been this outnumbered. The newly transformed leader lets out a blood-curdling scream, ordering his men to charge with everything they've got down the cramped hallway. This horde of monstrosities surges forward like an unstoppable tide, closing in on Wu Hyun. They shriek and lunge, and the commentator is sure he's about to be torn to shreds. But Seong Chol is totally hyped, screaming that Wu Hyun's skills are next level. Just then, a brand new mission flashes on the screen. It's from Anonymous Spectator 62. The pop-up tells Wu Hyun he's got a new quest: investigate the TL series drugs. He thinks it's sus. If the Spectator was really the one behind this chaos, why would he assign a mission to look into it? It makes him think there's another player in the game, more than just his mysterious benefactor. Sprawled on the floor, the original leader gasps, completely bewildered by what's happening. Wu Hyun decides right then and there to get to the bottom of this himself. At the far end of the hall, a heavy vault door hisses open. It reveals a hidden corridor. He steps inside, finding what looks like a long-forgotten and totally trashed experiment room. Lining the walls are jars filled with human organs, painting a gruesome picture of what went down here. In the reflection of his eye, a single torture chair sits in the dead center of the room. And just like that, memories of his past come flooding back. He sees his friends, chained and broken, pleading with him to be the one who makes it out alive. A girl, her face a mask of blood, sobs and apologizes, the light completely gone from her eyes. The ghosts of his past scream in his mind, begging him to get revenge for them, to finally put an end to this nightmare. A faint glow envelops his hand. He whispers a promise that they'll finally rest in peace. Then, he summons a black hole, and Seong Chol instantly recognizes the devastating technique from before. The scientists start panicking, having no clue what this swirling sphere of pure darkness is. The black hole begins to expand. It violently sucks in everything and everyone unlucky enough to be inside the lab. One of the researchers lets out a final, desperate scream for his life before he's completely erased. The vortex of energy atomizes him, leaving not even a shadow behind. And once again, the stream commentators have to announce that the feed is being censored for everyone's safety. Seong Chol is blown away by his power to literally manifest an artificial black hole. Nayeon is just stunned, wondering how anyone could possibly fight against something so utterly destructive. Wu Hyun lets out a long breath, seeing the facility is now nothing but rubble. He turns, his jaw set. There's only one thing left to do. A little while later, he's in the server room, hacking into the mainframe just as planned. He pulls up the data and sees the exact same thing. The drug is officially listed as a simple stimulant. With that, he's 100% certain someone is messing with the formula, but he has no idea who. And based on everything, it can't be Anonymous Spectator. Not after giving him that mission. He's lost in thought, wondering if some other entity is meddling with this world, someone other than him. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a strange file name, Tempest L. Over on the stream, the commentators are drawing a total blank, completely stumped about what it could mean. But then, the legendary YouTuber Chloe Martinez drops a massive donation and claims she has the answer. She asks to be invited onto the stream, promising she'll spill all the tea. Nayeon is totally fangirling over the idea, while Seong Cheol is on the fence about what to do. Chloe types that she's already given Wu Hyun a heads up, and that he's cool with her dropping by. The next thing you know, the YouTuber herself materializes in the studio, greeting the audience with a charismatic smile. With their VIP guest settled, the hosts dive right into the interview. Nayeon doesn't waste a second. She asks Chloe what Tempest L stands for. Chloe's expression turns dead serious as she reveals the full name, Tempest Lord. They are the monarchs from another world, the supreme leaders of the invaders who launched this entire war. Wu Hyun remembers them, god-tier monsters that even he, in his prime, barely stood a chance against. A wave of dread washes over Nayeon as she asks Chloe why on earth corporations would be using that name. And with a grim look, Chloe confirms her worst fears. They all come to a single, horrifying conclusion. The labs and the other world have forged an unholy pact.